5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look, it's saying over there it's going. Okay, so we should be good.
Here we go.
Oh, it cut it off. I don't know why it cut it off. Hello and welcome to Flory Models live show. Here we are, Friday for our monthly roundup. So it's the month of February, I have to remember. So we're going to answer your questions for the next sort of 2 hours that you've posted up beforehand. So if you've got any more, probably haven't got time to do them today. But obviously we'll start up another thread for next time and we'll work our way through the questions for you. So as ever, I am joined by, who is Skype full? There you go, both of you. Hold on, who's first? Steve. Steve the Sander. Do you like it? You've got your little name underneath your thing as well, look. It says Stephen Sutcliffe.
Barcats. Oh, yeah, I can. Hey, that's cool. Excellent.
That's very good. How are you doing, Steve? You all right?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad at all.
You keeping busy?
Yeah. Well, what have I done? I've just been doing a bit more work on the A10, testing the new camera setup. So that's all working. Look, all ready to go. Oh, bloody where's it done? Hey!
Crikey. Yeah, don't drop that on your model.
So yeah, it's all ready to go, and the pitch quality is it's superior. It's so I've done recorded another section of me starting to put the base coat on the A10 with the webcams, and that's all ready to go when Phil gets round to it. And the rest of them are going to be using that, so hopefully it should benefit. You know, you can zoom right in with that one as well, you know, and it's got kind of really good macro capability with the lens, so it should be really good.
Very good, fantastic. And Hans is with us as well. You all right, Hans? How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Same old stuff. Back again. Trying to get used to making videos.
Well, you're doing a lot of them at the moment. You're doing very well, I must say. Absolutely fantastic. We're loving them.
Oh, thank you.
The way everyone says he's a complete natural. It's like he's been doing it forever. And it's like, well, there you go, you see. He's all right.
Closet video guy.
I can go away on holiday now for a couple of months and leave you to it.
I don't think
both
so.
of you, you'll be absolutely fine. No problem at all.
I don't think so.
As ever, as I say, we're going to be answering your bits of questions. We are giving away the airbrush later on this afternoon. Remember, this one's just for the members. So if you haven't, and you are watching and you haven't logged in the last 30 days, why wouldn't you, obviously? But just make sure you do, and obviously you'll be entered. And then in the last sort of quarter of an hour of the show, we'll pick a number at random. I'll zip around the other side, find that login detail, and obviously we'll get this sent off to you this week. There is another one, which is here, which I will be reviewing this week. This is the Revolution one as well. This one is going to go out to anybody. Okay, so this will be out to obviously people on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube land, as well as members as well. And that one's going to go out as well because our kind friends at Graphic Air, the guys who do these, have supplied us with a few airbrushes that we've actually can give away to you guys, courtesy of them. So a big thank you to those as always. So what have you guys been up to then this week? If we have a quick recap, Steve, we'll start with you.
Just the A10, to be honest with you. There we go. That's how she's looking at the moment.
Very nice.
Started, most of the grey started to go on. Yeah, she's coming on a tree.
So whose paint are you using?
I'm using Guns' paint. Like I said, I've done a video and tell you what all about the paint and what pressure we're using, thinners. But basically, it's just Guns 307, is it? Mixed with self-leveling thinners, which is brilliant because it perfectly finished. But I've still got the lighter grey to go on next, and then I need to go around and start doing a lot of post shading. A few areas that I'm not quite happy with, that there's too much pre-shading coming through.
Yeah.
Just don't like the effect that it gives. I think it looks a bit, I don't know, it looks crap when it does. You know what I mean? Those of you who've been around shows, you can spot a model where they've let too much pre-shading come through, and it's just like black lines. It's an unnatural grid pattern on it. Just looks totally unnatural. So I'll be doing that over the next few days, and at the moment I'm just working on all the weapons, get them done, and hopefully I'll get it done. Right,
is it still rattling?
Yeah, it's got a one lead shot in there now that's loose. The rest, yeah, it's because when I put the undercarriage on, it did stand. It wasn't a tail setup, but the slightest pressure at the back and it were off. You know, to take off the load. So I just squirted a load of PVA glue in there, and then just put a load of lead shot in, thinking it would dry. It's caught me out again. As I turned it over when I were putting the primer on and what have you, all the lead shot inside just dropped from the bottom, the top, and then it all started pouring out of where the guns go in it. So I've got lead shot absolutely everywhere. It's all over the bench, the carpet, you name it, it's lead shot. And because it's got PVA glue on it, it sticks to you as well. So you start watching telly at night and you find a little bit of lead shot stuck to your leg and yeah. But no, to be honest, it's not bad kit actually. Oh, you know, there's a few inaccuracies, but a bit of work and it's turning out quite nice actually. Must admit I'm enjoying it.
I must admit, that is the thing with me as well. I'm enjoying building it far more than I thought we would do. When I started on mine, you said, we spoke about it before, the horror stories you hear about it, but I know Steve's the same, we've been talking about it, actually goes together really well. You know, all these people, it makes you wonder what they were building. Because I haven't found the problems that I've heard about. You know, we all heard about the problems with the fuselage alignments, getting them. I didn't have any problem with it. It seemed to work okay for me, so...
It's just got to about it logically, you know. Just take your time and think. Don't just dive in. Just think. Take a minute. Yeah, we'll do it like that, and it goes together really nice.
Definitely,
now,
fantastic.
But it's no longer available. But hopefully somebody will do a new tool of it, and we'll get a brand new one out.
It would be nice to have the C, I must admit.
Yeah.
Get the new one. Right, and Hans, you've been very busy this week.
Yeah, just getting on with the Panzer 4 mostly. And as we demoed in the little videos, worked on burnishing those tracks, and now they're all dried up. You can really see the cool colors that it comes in. Quite works a treat, really. You know, very easy to use and gives you all these cool little shades, and pretty fun to work with.
I think the thing I like about when you were doing it that way is that it's very natural, because you're weathering it realistically as it is. You really are rusting it, so it wouldn't be universal. You're going to get things that could be rusting more than others, and all the little sort of, you know, sort of with nature, it's always the sort of different specs here and different tones there. Some areas are brighter, some areas aren't, you know, and various things like that. And that's what's really nice about that track. It's got that very natural look to it, where if you're trying to do it with paint powders and stuff, it's quite tricky to get that type of effect without a lot of work. Whereas that way, it's just leaving it to Mother Nature to do its bit.
Yeah, you can really see the differences in colors. You know, there's some really rusty colors, and there's more brownish, and there's black pieces in there. Pretty fun, you know. Works really well. One of the easier ways to do your tracks. And then yesterday I shot a bunch of videos on basically a little paint tutorial while I was painting the Panzer 4 with MRP paints. I think that turned out pretty nice. Just awesome detail in these little kits. Get that off of there. Let's see again. You can still see inside the turret right there. The detail right there. You can see the gun breech, and it's actually loose.
Yeah.
The fit is that good actually, where you can, you know, I'll have to weather this all up. It's just base white right now, but you can really see the really nice detail in there.
No, it is. It's very, very nice, I must admit.
So that's what
Again,
we've been kind of cracking on that one.
So what colour paints did you use? Because that'll be asked. People will ask.
All right, yeah. So, let me grab this stuff here. So, what we started out, well, right now, the only thing that's on there right now is, let's see if I can get that the right way. There we go. It's that tank gray MRP paint. It's MRP 34, RAL 7021. And what we're planning to do is do some highlights with a dark gray, which is MRP 47.
Right.
And then we'll do some shady areas with RLM 66 Schwarzgrau, which is MRP 59. So that's the plan. Basically doing some, I want to call it directional lighting more than anything, rather than black and white techniques. Different. Basically having the light come from one direction and have it light in this area and then shade it in this back area. So just a little different technique that I want to play with and try something different. And then ultimately, I've been talking with Martin Page on the forum. He's doing a Panzer III in a winter scheme. Seems like the folks that are following the thread that I put up kind of gently nudging me towards a winter scheme. So I think that's probably what we'll end up with. And it'll be kind of fun, just doing some whitewashing and all that good stuff. But I don't want to lose this kind of cool bluish gray look to the tank. So it'll be quite weathered, almost off of the tank is what I'm planning to do. Plans are late. We'll have to see how well we do, right?
No, it's looking very, very nice. No problem with that at all.
It's quite nice. Love these little dragon kits. A lot of folks don't like them because they're fiddly. Lots and lots of sub-assemblies with lots of little parts. If you take your time and just kind of make these little bitty, take your time, just clip all the little parts off the sprue, lay them down right next to the instructions, right? Instructions are not always very clear. You'll do just fine. Just take your time.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's looking very, very nice. Very cool.
So there we are.
Very good.
Haven't done a whole lot on the. Sorry. No, I haven't done too much on the SU-24 as expected. I get sidetracked like this on these little side projects. Just working on researching my color schemes right now. So let's hopefully you guys be patient. I will get back to that fairly soon.
Cool. No problem at all. We will. We'll be enjoying the videos that come from those. Right, and as for me, well, probably you know what I've been up to. Same with Steve. We've been pushing on very heavily with this. So last week you would have watched the vlogs, no doubt. You would have seen we've got the paintwork all onto this. We've got the weapons down here. The pylons are all done. Technically, everything is ready for this one, so it just needs to be painted and gone through. So this is sort of phase one with the paintwork down on here. And because I was terrified I was actually going to run out of paint, I used guns like Steve's doing on his to go around and do it. And what I'm going to do is going to get the markings onto this one next. Then I'm going to go back and post shade it and start to weather it in and go through the motions of it. But we're going to be using it in conjunction with a wash. So this is actually going to have like a flat coat over this. Then it's going to have the dark dirt wash right the way over it. Then we're going to post shade over the top of that again, just to blend it all in and make it all sort of that heavy duty, worn down, because the Hog spends most of its life low level environment, picks up a lot more dirt and sort of grime and stuff, and just the way it is, the way the crews walk around it and scuff it and do various things, it sort of lends itself beautifully to heavy duty weathering and stuff like that. So that is the plan with it. So hopefully we'll be able to make our way through with this one this week to pretty much conclusion. We're probably not going to get it completed this week, but we will be very, very close to it so we can make our way through. But generally, I must admit, like Steve was saying earlier, that you hear the horror stories with it. And as I said last week, I put off building this kit for probably the last part of 10 years, purely because of how bad I heard it is. I'm really enjoying it. I know I had my rants last week, which I won't do anymore, I promise. But generally, it was really nice to sort of, take a kit, and be given little challenges. That's the only way I can describe it. You've just got that thing, and like Steve described it, I think care is probably the best sort of way to sort of sum it up. If you take care with a few things and just work out why it won't, so test fit and dry fit everything, and then it won't go, why won't it go? And usually there's a very simple reason. So it's usually a bit of flash, an ejector pin, or just a tiny bit of misalignment. But if you play with it, sand it, just spend 10 minutes like we showed about doing those engine nacelles at the back and stuff, and we get in there, you can actually save yourself a ton of work and a ton of filler, because actually filler wise, we've only got a little bit down there on the wings, we've got a little shim that we put across the back, a little bit down the back there, but generally, apart from the odd little bit of super glue on a seam that would give me a bit of trouble here at the back and stuff, it hasn't given us any problems. Yes, it's got the fit issue Steve was talking about. We know these intakes and the fan blades and all the rest of it are wrong, but it's still an A10 and it looks the part. And I must admit, it's really starting to pop to life now and everything. So I think by the time we get the markings on there, we come in there with the wash and then we get the sort of next layer of paint onto it, we should end up with something really, really nice. And I really can't wait to get the face on it either. So, because I know Steve's doing quite a nice one. Steve's doing the black snakes one, which is quite nice because that sort of wraps right the way around the front, and it's got the sort of the plating of the snake all onto it. And like with me, obviously I'm doing the warthog, so we're not doing the standard sort of shark's mouth, because to be honest, I've got it one up there above me in the Euro 1 scheme, so it's nice to have it a little bit different.
But you've got now where you can see that.
Yeah.
So it's just it's the top two of the snake. There's a photograph of it as well.
Yeah.
It's not. I just think it's cool markings. It looks menacing with a snake's head on the front.
No, it is. I must admit, it's nice to, as you say, all too often everyone just does that sort of normal, you know, shark's mouth on there and all the rest of it. And don't get me wrong, I love that look, but it is nice sometimes to have something a little bit different. So I'm having the Hogs one on there, Steve's having the snake as well. So at least we're not just all doing the same markings for it as we work our way through. Right, okay, we ready to do some questions then, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll kick off then. So Bruno asking the foreman, he's talking about MRP paints. I'd like to buy the Russian colours, as I've got the SU33 from Kinetic and the SU27 from Trumpy in 72nd scale. Do they do box sets for them in these colours, or do you have to buy individual bottles? Unfortunately, you do have to buy individual bottles. The only range that MRP do, and Hans has got, if I remember rightly, is the Israeli Defence Force ones. I think that's... Didn't you buy that one, Hans, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, it was Israeli Defence Force. That's the one box set, which has
the only one.
5 bottles in it. But yeah, you would have to buy the individual bottles from MRP for SU33.
Yeah. So if you're thinking 27 and 33, I have them here, literally, which will take you across these. So for the SU7 and 33 combined, you got the blue one, which is, actually if I do that, hopefully it'll somewhat work. I might be able to show you on the camera. There we go. So that'll be your first one. So that's 196. And then you've got 197, which is the pale one, and then you've got the light grey, which is 198. That's the combined SU33 and the SU27 sort of flanker colours. Then you've got for the SU33 the deep blue colours, and working your way through those greys. So then down there you've got 199, 200, and 201. So if you did want to go through all of those, that's what you can do. You can do them literally like that. And have them in there. As you say, lovely paints, they go on forever. Don't think you're going to be sort of, you know, using gallons of paint, because they're not actually as bad as a lot of people sort of make out about the amount of paint you go through. As you say, been working with it recently, you hardly use any. So, but if you want to have a look at doing the SU27, don't forget, it's free to watch as well if you're a non-member. You've got the flanker build that I did as a one-day build, and we used the MRP paints first time ever in anger on a model, and we went right the way through, and to say they worked flawlessly and loved them. So if you want to do something else like that. Second question for the SU33, I saw there's the big Ed for it is out. I saw the PE for the cockpit, and it's a very weird colour, a purple violet. maroon-ish colour instead of the classic turquoise blue as Phil did on his SU-27. Are they wrong? We spoke about this earlier, to be honest, and we went off and had a look, and we think it may be an issue with just the way it's been photographed, because technically it's not that colour. We think that it may be just because they've done a close-up photo of it with the camera, the way the camera's taken the photo and the light's reflecting off of it. It's probably just that. I can't imagine that they would have gone for that colour, because clearly it's wrong. So I think by the time you do get it, you should have no problem with it at all. So that's the one we were talking about with that. Fortunately, this kit is excellent and don't really need any of those. For the IP and the seat belts, unfortunately, I think that Edard did zoom set for that one. Another question is about the robot paint shaker. You have, Phil, is the AC powered one or the battery one? Because most of the time this is the US plug and not the European one. But don't forget, even European to UK plugs are different as well. We're a little bit odd. Now, I haven't opened mine at all, but Hans has got his there. Is yours main powered as well, Hans, or is yours just battery?
This is the battery version. It's model number 410. I did used to have one that was plug-in ready. I used it quite a bit. The plastic mechanism that makes it shake does tend to wear out. I think they could do a little bit better job on it, but I do a ton of painting. And you know, eventually I just got a battery version for no particular reason, really. I just found one on eBay for sale, and I was like, oh, I'll just get the battery one. What the heck, you know? So, but the one that I had was almost 10 years old. This one is, I'm gonna say, already 4 years old, and does just fine. But yeah, they work fine. They do because they are Robart and so-called branded version. Probably not, you know, a little bit more expensive than what Steve uses. So
yeah,
we can talk.
A lot.
The girly shaker.
Yeah. Thing is, though, this is probably almost the same motor, no doubt. Similar motor. It's 20 quid. It's got both mains and battery, so you can use it on your bench, take it wherever. You know, you can't go wrong with it.
No, that's right. Yeah, mine has got the American plug, which won't go in the Euro because your plugs are closer together. The European ones are further apart, and you can put them into a shaver thing. But this is a standard step down to 12 volt. So this is going to go from 110, 240 down to 12 volts. So I could easily take one of our ones, because this is a standard connector that plugs in the back, and I can step that down and put one of our other ones, which is 12 volt, which is pretty much universal for everything. And I will put one on, but this one is mains only, so I can't actually do this one as battery. So I will sort out, I haven't got one, so I've just opened it first time. But tool time this week on Tuesday, I will do a full review of it. But as you said, we were discussing this before. We were saying that they think they do a UK type version of this as well, that comes with a UK plug, which is step down 12 volt, but that's standard 100 or 240 down to 12 volt off of that, which I've got hundreds of them around. So from everything I do RC and various things, so that's not a problem. I will sort one of those out for it, but on time on Tuesday I get it sorted, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll have a look at the Badger paint stirrer one and various things, and see the difference, if any, between shaking and stirring. I'm going to call this the James Bond tool time. I'll get a martini and we'll have one shaken and one stirred, and we'll see what the difference is between the two. So,
it's funny you brought the shaken versus stirred. I made a comment during my video taping yesterday that's not up and available yet, but talk about how I like my paint shaken rather than stirred. So
than stirred. That's it. I know. I must admit, it is the big thing that I never used to put too much emphasis on mixing your paint. The way I look at it is, it's going to get atomized anyway, so who cares? But I have to say, since using, and we've all spoken about together off air, how we are pretty much fastidious now with everything we do. We mix our paint really, really well. And since I've been doing that, I've had better consistency, better flow, less spitting, less stopping and starting, and everything else. And okay, it does take a few more minutes because you need to mix it up and you're cleaning things a little bit more and stuff like that. But from an airbrushing point of view, it makes it far more pleasurable, because instead of having that thing of fighting with your airbrush and it's stopping and going off and blowing out the tissue, I did, as you probably will see on this one this week coming, the entire of that paint with one trigger pull. I had my Infinity locked off on half pull, and literally it was that thing of like, right, okay, and I just pulled it back and I was just pushing down and locked up, and I just went everywhere, and I didn't need to, apart from the very end. I had, I think, twice just started to notice I was losing it, so just knock it off, blow it, go again. But if that had been anything else, and say a year ago, I would have probably done 100 pulls and blowouts as I was making my way through. But again, I'm putting it down to better paint mixture. You know, obviously you're not getting any sort of difference in the paint mixture. You're not getting a very thin part and then perhaps a lumpy part and going through. And again, it's because I'm mixing it up thoroughly before it goes into the color cut, for instance, as well. So it's not like it's thin to start with and gets thicker, or starts off thicker and gets thinner and stuff like that. So, but yeah, very good. So,
go for the cheap one. That's what I say.
Steve's going cheap. You northerner, you.
But to be honest, it's probably the people who make your one saw the nail version and have said, "Oh, we can do one of them. Put model on it and charge 2x, 3x the price going rate for what it should be."
Yeah.
And it's the same with everything.
Yeah, it's the same as this. All this is a coffee frother, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Badger one is exactly the same as a certain well-known high street brand of coffee stirrer frother. And it is, apart from it hasn't got Badger on it, but it's the same utensil, everything, apart from it has something else written here than it does have Badger. Mind you, theirs is the same price as this one, so, but that's what it is.
Yeah. But that's why we set up Cheapskate Corner, because there are, you get the actual, you know, alternative, get away with whatever, just because it's got model written on it. And you say a fortune. So we always go back to those little micro brushes. You know, they're charging, again, as some at Huddersfield shows, £6 for 10 of them or 11 of them, where you can get a bag of 200 for £3.
Yes, one of these cylinders is like, I think it's £2.30 delivered from China, and that's 100. But all you need to do is look for what these are actually called, eyebrow super glue applicators or something else like that, because that's what they are. But they're micro brushes, and they do all different styles as well, with bendy heads and the various things like it. Anyway, right, who wants to do the next question?
Sure. This is from Kevin Crawley. Contemplating to take a shot at doing winter camouflage 70-second Stuka. I'm wondering if the members of the team have suggestions on this technique or advice. On a 70-second scale plane, would it vary greatly from other scales? And then he goes on and asks are there any differences between doing it on a plane versus armor? And then lastly, do any of you contemplate doing a winter scheme in the foreseeable future? I know Steve did this on his Gundam with some snow effects recently. So I put up a little picture of one of the possibilities of using or doing winter schemes, I guess, is using these worn effects from AK in this particular case, and heavy chipping is another way to do it. And then Mig Ammo makes a similar product, and then using hairspray technique is another way of doing it. Basically, you're putting a layer down between your paint and the whitewash. Using acrylic paints to do the whitewash is the best trick. So the acrylic will actually wash off of this, off of your paint, so it gets that streaky look and worn effect, basically. I know Steve did some snow effects with, I think it's called Chrysel. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, well, that's the name of the powder. But for the winter camo, the chipping, especially if you're using these chipping fluids, it's best applying 2 thin coats with a brush. This is what I've found anyway. Obviously let it dry, but when you're putting your paint on, mist your paint on. Don't put a really thick layer on. The thicker the layer, the harder it is for the water to penetrate the paint and get down to the chipping fluid. So just missed it on. Around where the markings are, they tended to obviously not put the paint over the markings. So just airbrush around your markings so you can still see them. So there are a few little things. Yeah, I think, is it Mick, do a product. I've got a bottle of that stuff that's a washable paint.
Correct.
Basically, apply this paint as you would normally, and then just use a wet brush with water to rub off the paint. So it's basically missing out the chipping fluid on hairspray. Yeah, for getting realistic snow, there's a company called Precision Ice and Snow. Basically, they do this powder, and also you can buy it as a wash. And it's probably the most realistic snow that you can get. That's the wash that they do, Chrysol wash.
Yeah.
They do a powder, and the powder, basically all you do, you can get a starter set, so you get 2 different grades of powder, depending on which scale. You get a little metal sieve. You take some, I used some aerosol of clear varnish. You just spray that on your model. So just think of the angle where the snow's coming down. So you're spraying it from the same angle, and then you sprinkle the snow on. And because of the angle that you sprayed your clear coat, the snow's only got to stick to them surfaces, so it gives it a more realistic effect. And also, there's a natural little sparkle to the snow when you look back at it. It's amazing stuff. I'll have to do now I've got all the cameras up and do a proper full-out video on it. But I know if you go on the website, Precision Snow and Ice, I'll tell you the website. Yeah, PrecisionIceandSnow.com. They do videos on there, and you can even mix it with silicone that you plumbers use and that. Get clear silicone, you can mix the powder with that, put that on your base, and then you can start putting footprints in there and track marks, wheel marks, stuff like that. So it's a really, really good product. Probably the most realistic looking out there, because I've been wanting to use these snow products, but a lot of them just end up looking like aftershave cream or shaving foam that you've just splattered all over your model, or someone's just put a load of flour on it. It just don't look realistic. Even the ice doesn't, so it's a good product to use.
Cool, very good. There we go. Hope that helps. Okay, Paul was saying, Phil, not a question. Again, I've hooked me on MRP paints and Rosy Derivators. I've got the full set of the single wheel ones, and they've and then you had to do the review of the SU34 kit, which was on order today. Sorry about that. It's going to be expensive for you then. When Steve knocked over his parts of his modelling desk during the update, we didn't all laugh, did we? No, most of us didn't until afterwards, and he was happy about it. Then we could. Modelling desk was one where it made me feel sick in the mouth. See, it wasn't just us. I must admit, when I saw you do that, I did think, oh, that's not good. Of all that delicate photo etch. Anyway, keep up the great work to you and the team. Thank you very much. Anyway, Steve, how is it? Have you put it back together?
No, I just got to glue a couple of bits back on straight.
So it didn't just hit and obliterate, and then you pushed the chair back and rolled over it.
No, I've got kind of a rug bit of carpet down here, and it just landed perfectly, just on its side, so not the bit of the aerial or the top mast slightly off, bit skew with. But luckily, how the carpet bit is, it actually saved it from any damage. If it had been a hard floor, it would probably just disintegrated. So
yeah,
these things,
right.
You know, if it happens, it happens. There's no point, you know.
See, what a calm bunch we are.
Yeah.
Most people are like, oh my, that's it. I'm never doing it. Beep. And we have to put up a technical difficulty sign. Right, okay, Jim says, hi guys, question for Hans. I've read somewhere on the forum that you were compiling a paint conversion chart. Did you ever finish it and publish it? Many thanks, Jim.
I think Jim is confused on my thinner compatibility chart more than anything. I'm not working on a paint conversion chart. It's just too much work. There's quite a few areas on the web where you can get conversion charts. They're never completely complete with all the paints. It's too much work to keep up with that. But I did put in a thinner conversion chart, compatibility chart that's up on the forum. I did not publish it. I did talk to Phil about it right before we joined the live show, and I guess we can put it up on one of your shared drives, Phil, and I'll take a look at I'll take a look at the forum as well. I think there's a possibility in the forum to do it. I haven't played with it, and I promised Phil I'd take a look at it and see if I can figure out a way to share out certain files. But we want to make sure that we don't go overboard with that, because pretty soon those files tend to get very big, and I'm sure there's a cost to it, so we want to keep it within reason. But yeah, I'll take a look at it and see how we can share that out. But it's the thinner chart, not the paint conversion chart. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I did mention about perhaps at some point doing a paint conversion chart, because mine's so far out of date, as a lot of you know. I have this, I call it my paint Bible, which is stuff I've skimmed from around the net, and then you see there's lots of highlight areas and crossed out. But the thing is, we were talking about this earlier, this is out of date, and we were saying that, you know, this technically is circa 10 years old now. And I've done small updates, but I haven't done the full update to it. So the trouble that I've had is that I've got so far behind. To update it now would take a lot of work. You know, you're talking weeks and weeks of work, sitting down, getting paints in, checking them, references, getting other people's opinion onto it. It's not something where you can rattle it out and stick it up. The other problem we've got, of course, is that we were so thinking about off air that there's so many paint companies out there to get everybody's in to make a definitive paint conversion chart is a nightmare, because also, as we very well know through things like Model Air, they've changed theirs over the last few years. We've got lots of different paints, call outs and colours and various things, other manufacturers doing that as well. So when you start on that process of sort of releasing something, you need to keep it up to date and keep on top of it. But when you've got perhaps 7, 8, maybe 10 even major paint manufacturers which you want to cover in a conversion chart, to do it is a huge undertaking. So it's something we haven't got time to do at the moment, but say we'll get that one with Hans sorted out. There is a way we can do a file sharing thing from the main site, and we should be able to link that via the forum and via the main site as well. So we will look into that next week and see if we can get that one up to you. Right, Rob Lee says, hi Phil, Steve and Hans, a bit of a dumb question from me, but I've heard Phil and I think Steve say that they put a decal softener in the water to help remove them from the backing. I have both the Micro Sol and the set, and both seem to say the same thing on the bottle, which is Micro Set and Sol products are softeners, red and blue, based on the saucer of water of how much put in water. Right, okay. Let's say Hans has got his there. I have mine here in my very handy anti-knockover device. Well, they do. It's that thing. How many? I think this is why this bottle's almost empty. But yeah, oh, losing me here. But the thing is, what I tend to do is, if it's a big project you're doing and you're going to be using that water a lot, so say you, not so much on the A10, actually funny enough there's not many on there, but if you're doing something like an F4 Phantom and there's like a million decals for it, what I tend to do is I'll unscrew this and put a splodge into my water. Okay, because then that way it mixes in with the water you put in there, and it's just going to soften from the get-go, because the blue one technically is a softener. All that's going to do is actually make the decal conform better to a complex surface. It's no, you don't really need it on something flat, but if you're doing something like vortex generators on wings, or if you've got a piece of armor and you're going over a complex surface, what this will enable it to do is the decal to go over it and sag over it, instead of being right angles and then cracking and splitting as you try and force it. Okay, so that's really all the blue one's going to do. I think they actually do, yeah, it's also known as a decal remover as well. So if you've got a decal and you put it down, it's in the wrong place and dried, if you give it a coat of this, it will soften it, loosen it, and you can get it off, or even maneuver it. And I have done that in the past as well. I've had some markings, I think it was no step markings or something, on a 32nd years ago, and I used a little bit of this, put it on there, and then it had been on there a couple of days and it was in the wrong place, and just put it on there, chipped away at it, and I managed to lift it in one, reposition it, put it down somewhere else, and it worked a treat. So you can do it for that. The red one, which is the Sol, okay, This is technically the setting solution, and that's why really these are the wrong way round, because the set one is the blue, but the sole is technically the setting solution. This is the one that you use last, okay? So when your decal's down and dry, you overcoat with this, and this is the one that is going to shrink it down to the surface and give you the sort of, you know, very painted on effect, and, you know, the bit where it goes into all the recesses and it looks like it's been the riveting and the panel lining goes through. Okay, so technically this is the hot one out of the pair. This is the one that does the work. And to be honest, I use this all the time, but very rarely do I use the actual set. Only if I'm doing a big decal job. But if it's just a couple of decals, I just use the sole, if you like, the red one. But the red one is the last one, the easy way. Just remember that to make sure you do this one over a completely cured surface. So if you are a situation where you put down a coat of Johnson's Floor Care, something else like that, especially the wax ones, if it's still soft, you'll find that the red one will make it go milky looking, because it will soften that. And then sometimes you don't get it back because it etches into the surface of it. So make sure the surface is completely dry. But I know other people who've had like ring marks around their decals, and that's where they've put too much of this on and it's etched into there. So remember, thin coats, lots of thin coats. You might need 10, 20 coats I've had in the past with tricky decals, but you can get away with it. But if you put down big ones and it sits on the top, when it's going to eat into the paintwork, and especially your clear coats from that. Okay, he then goes on to say, also, do you guys have any recommendations for the gloss gull grey? Okay, so then he speaks about the FS numbers, and as we spoke about before, the Federal Standard codes, which is the way it works, if it starts with a 1, 2 or a 3, 1 means it's a gloss, 2 means it's a semi or a satin finish, and then 3 means it's a flat finish. Then you go through the other numbers, and a 6 means it's a grey, is it? I think it is, and then the other ones are the actual colour codes from it, and that's how they do it. Okay, so technically it doesn't matter what the first number is, because that is just the finish. Okay, but you were saying on there about you'd like to use an acrylic. The one that I've got down here for acrylic is the new Vallejo light gold grey, as they call it, which is down here as FS36440, or also known as 620. But it is their number 71121, gold grey, light gold grey. It's a nice colour, I must admit. I have used it. We've used it in the past. You have got other options. Guns do quite a nice one as well, but this one is a flat. The Guns one is a semi, and I think Guns do another version of it as a gloss as well. I think it is, or something else like that. But you don't really have to worry about that, because if you put it down any form, you can either overcoat it to bring it more like a gloss, or more to a satin, or more like a flat afterwards. So just make sure you've got the right colour in the sort of first place for it. But you know, in the old days, I used to use Tamiya XF20. And I used to cut it with a little bit of white, just to give me that sort of, when there was no acrylic gold grey or an easy one, that's what I did. But now there is a few colours around, and I've used it in anger quite a few times up there. We've used it on the Phantom, we've used it on the Intruder, and quite a few of the other naval ones, though, the other Phantoms, 32nd and 48s, down in there. And even Buster had a coat of it once upon a time. So he's also saying there about current acrylic planes that shoot straight from the bottle that requires a straightforward thinning like 50-50. Well, yeah, so if you want to go straight forward, I wouldn't. I'd always add a little bit thinner to Vallejo, but the Vallejo one, if you wanted to go for the easy option. And it looks quite a nice colour, to be honest. It looks all right in the bottle. And we have tried it. I've got a nut in here, which means I've used it somewhere. And being as I've still got it here, it must be okay. But you should say Vallejo's version, sorry, MRP's version, which is up there somewhere, we saw it earlier, yeah, which is MRP 98. They've done that as a flat, so that's up there as a flat, even though we know MRPs are very glossy, but they put that down as a flat because they've started it with a 3, so 36440 on that one, so just depends. But as you say, 1, 2 or 3 just means gloss, satin finish or a flat. Simples. Right. That'll do us. Okay, who wants to do Chris's question then?
A short one.
Yeah, with a really complicated answer. Go on then, Steve, you read it, we'll chip in. Literally.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Chip in. Hang on, we're all week. Go on.
Yeah, good afternoon, chaps. Hopefully you can help. I couldn't resist and had to pick up Haddad's limited edition release of the Czech MiG-21 MF. 39 schemes in the box. The ones that are really jumping out to me are the beaten up schemes with lots of chipping of overlaid markings. They do look good actually. Let's put images up. I'm a convert to MRP paints, but it has left me with a quandary as to how to achieve the weather-beaten chipped effect. With acrylics, chipping fluid, hairspray, salt, etc. would do the job. Any ideas for MRP lacquers? I'm thinking they wouldn't actually chip, so am I looking at masking the effect? It's a good question.
Okay, so yeah, in the forum, he's put up a couple of photos from Edard to the one, and it's two lovely looking birds there, MiG-21s. One of them has been completely peeled, literally all over. The other one's just through camo, through chipping. But we were discussing this before we came on, because we're trying to be professional now. We talk about these before we get here, so we do sound like we're on about. We were saying chipping, technically, when you're dealing with lacquers or enamel paint, is totally different ball game to using acrylic. Acrylic, by its nature, is quite easy to chip with because it's a softer paint. The trouble that we were saying is, if you're going to go in with MRPs, especially, they are as hard as nails. So if you're using the traditional sort of hairspray technique, forget it, because what it's going to do is seal it down, and the water is not going to be able to penetrate it whatsoever. So we were having a bit of a chat, all of us, and we were saying that actually salt technique might work quite well for it, because obviously it's got that grittiness that you will then take away, and to give you that type of look and various things. Mask oils as well, because they're raised, that you can actually get in there to peel them off, would probably still work with an enamel or a lacquer based paint. But the trouble that we've said with it is that if you're going to go with that sort of torn effect like chipping has on aircraft, it's not so much it's worn down through, it's more like it's peeled. We were saying that if you're going to be doing it with an enamel based product, it's not going to want to peel off like an acrylic does. So if you go over it with sort of quite a soft paint like Vallejo, or you know, your normal sort of ones like your Tamiya's, your Guns acrylics and things like that, they're going to peel away quite nicely and give you a very heavy weathered chipped in stuff. But the thing is, if you want to go in there with MRPs, which are as hard as nails, it's going to be very hard work to chip with it, because once it's on and it's down flat, you're not going to get in there. You need to get underneath it somehow. So like Hans has got down there, he's got a couple of masking fluids, and that's how we would, when we were talking about it before, we were saying if we were going to do it through that, if you were doing big areas, you'd have to mask them off with fluid. Then you're going to go in there with obviously chipping techniques with that. With perhaps you're going to be using like the sponge technique or the tinfoil technique, screw up some tinfoil so it's sharp edges, and go around and dot that around and do it that way. So, but it is going to be a harder way. Chipping technically is always going to be done with a soft paint that you can, you know, you can get through and down into, you know, to wear in. Because again, you know, when you're doing that thing, I've got the metal finish down there. Technically, you would just do a full metal finish, masking solution goes down, or whichever way you're going to do it. Then you're going to go over the acrylic, and you're going to have that little bit of room with acrylic where you can chip past it and perhaps dig at it with a stiff brush to peel it off and stuff. But if you're using an enamel, and especially if you're using lacquers like MRPs, they are very, very hard paint. They are as tough as nails. So you're always going to be fighting against it to do it, which could give you some very nice worn, lightly worn effects. But certainly if you want to go for heavy worn, like we're looking at that bottom one there, which is looks like it's been peeled, it's going to be quite a bit of work. Anything to add, guys? Help?
No, not really. Only, like you say, the salt technique could work. You can easily knock that off, because the salt, even if you can't use water to moisten the salt,
you can toothbrush it away.
Yeah, of course you can. But yeah, you may be a convert to MRP, but for that kind of scheme, stick with acrylics. You go get a lot nicer effect than trying to. Your salt technique's good, but it's got its place. And I don't think it's for that kind of effect. It don't give as nice a worn effect. You get with a chipping fluid. Another way, again, it won't give the same effect, but you could just try sanding your paint away. Put a thin coat on and use a really fine sanding stick and try just rubbing the paint away. That might work.
It is. It's just as you say. You know, the risk is you go a little bit too far, you catch an edge, isn't it? And
it's one of those where you need a buster, and just spray your buster and just give all these different methods that you know of a try and see if any of them work. You might stumble across something and it works for you. If not, just go back to the techniques that you know and the products that you know will work and do the job that you're wanting them to do.
Yeah, definitely. Okie dokie. Right, okay. John says, hello team, I've recently acquired an ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, 1. Do any of you 3 gentlemen ever make use of ultrasonic cleaners for occasionally deep cleaning your airbrush? No, no, and no is the easy one for that. None of us have got an ultrasonic cleaner.
One, but
Have you?
yeah, but it's in next door in where the stash is. Kind of in corner, you know, you always have a corner that's just got empty boxes and crap, basically. Plastic, floor making its way around there. Absolutely useless for airbrushes. Work brilliant on jewellery, but for airbrushes, nah. Rubbish.
Hold on, we'll let me go through this and then you can have a say, all right? If yes, what liquid do you use to soak your parts in the cleaner? Right, okay, we'll come back to that in a minute as well. And number 3, it would be interesting to see one of you demonstrate your ultrasonic cleaning process with outline which parts, if any, that you do not place in an ultrasonic cleaner. Of course, absolutely no problem if you guys don't use these things. Right, Steve, go and get yours. To receive in an hour. Comes back covered in cobwebs and that with it in his hand.
But I'd say something, make an interesting video to see Phil with his parts in an ultrasonic cleaner.
Well, this is it. To be honest, we were talking about this before. I don't use them. When I have done stripping and cleaning of airbrushes, I have seen people have handed me airbrushes that have been through an ultrasonic cleaner and the O-rings are shot, the rubber ones, because they've been in an ultrasonic cleaner, and that's why your airbrush now doesn't work. So make sure you take out your seals. Well, basically, the only thing you ever want to put into an ultrasonic cleaner is metal. Okay, you don't want to put any plastic parts particularly in there. You certainly don't want to put any rubber parts in there. You want to take out your Teflon seals and absolutely everything out of your airbrush. But Hans was saying, quite interesting, you used to use them in a different life, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, I used to work for a scuba diving shop and learned how to take the breathing apparatus apart, and there's always corrosion on the inside from all the salt water with, and we would put them in a solution, and I can't remember what it was, but you did use gloves, but we would strip all the rubber O-rings out of it, for sure. Anything that's not even close to metal needs to go, but it does eat the plating off of those materials, so you got to be very careful with them. It does work. I think it's a little bit of overkill on an airbrush, to be honest. If you do good maintenance on the airbrush, I don't think you need it, but you know, it's a nice to have, I guess. But I would be very, very careful with them. Don't leave them in there for hours, and definitely strip out everything. And then once you take them out of the solution, whatever the solution you're using, there are ultrasonic specific solutions for that. Wash it off with water all the way, and then reassemble your airbrush, and then re-lubricate all your O-rings for sure.
Yeah.
I know when I bought mine, it wasn't that expensive. I bought some solution with it. But you put your bits, you put stuff in there, you left it for the specified time, and I didn't notice them get any cleaner. Probably because, like I say, we're buying very early entry level ones, and I noticed the difference when you put jewellery in there. I tried some one's jewellery, we popped that in there, left it for a lot longer than it said, and it did really clean them. But for airbrush bits, to be honest, I think I prefer the method where you just take your airbrush to bits and get a little pot, put a load of IPA in there, and just leave your parts in there, because the IPA will loosen it and get every bit of grime, dried paint, everything out of it. Or use either a cellulose cleaner or these. I don't know if you've seen them, you can get aerosol airbrush cleaner, and they come with a long tube on them. So just use one of them, because obviously they've been designed to clean airbrushes, but they really shift the paint, and it's a lot cheaper just using your normal airbrush cleaning stuff that you've got, your normal thinners, than it is going out and buying one of these machines and having to keep buying an extra type of fluid that don't get the job done as well as just a bit of elbow grease and a little cleaning brush.
It is. I think, you know, at the end of the day, though, is obviously I've had people hand me airbrushes and they're covered in paint. I don't think there's much excuse with it. If you're using your airbrush and, you know, at the end of the day, if you're keeping it all basically clean, you're not going to need the power of an ultrasonic cleaner to go in there because, you know, okay, I'm only speaking for the Hiram Steenbeck here, and that's why if you've just seen the reviews on these, is the reason I like these is because you can take off that entire front end, put a brush right up, technically right through it from one end to the other, clean it all out, rinse it out. But I always find that technically a soak with a hot product isn't even that necessary, just a run through with it. So what I might do is I'll get some thinners and I'll, you know, technically I'll give you a quick thing here. I'll just whip mine apart.
Yeah, I've got one.
You know, technically I will take mine apart as fast as that. Okay, and then down through here, I don't know, probably the camera won't see, but I can actually stick a brush where you can see daylight right the way through. So that's it. And then I have one of these, which is probably horrible and filthy, which is designed for this one, and I can physically poke this guy right up and through the entire thing. So this goes up in through here, and if you wanted to carry on, I'm not going to do it because I don't need to, but you can poke it right the way through and back out the other end. Okay, and that's it. Away you go. It's very straightforward, very, very easy. But if you've got, you know, a couple of brushes for the right size for your airbrush, you can poke this in. All those bits that you're probably trying to get out with an ultrasonic cleaner just down in here, you're not really going to have to worry about it. You should be absolutely fine with it, you know. I don't honestly see the need to get in there with something quite as strong and as powerful as I said, ultrasonic cleaner. But, you know, that said, if that's the way you want to do it, as we always say, there's no right and wrong way with this. You know, if you're needing it, absolutely. The through is fine. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I found it actually when I went tidying up. Brand new brush set that I've got for it. So for you, your Harden and Steenbeck, it's set 217410, and you get two little brushes, and that's all you need.
Yeah,
that is it. You dip them in a bit of thinners, bit of airbrush cleaner, and just gently clean it. The right size for your nozzle, so you know, as long as you just do it gently, you're not going to bust your nozzle or anything. And like Hans has just put up a little reamer that you can get, again designed for the Harden Steenbeck airbrush. No doubt, iWatch have their own cleaning sets, and so just get the correct cleaning set for your airbrush, and you don't need all these fancy other cleaning features.
Well, like Hans is showing there with the reamer, you know, obviously this is pretty much specific for the Harder & Steenbeck airbrushes, but you can see there it fits in there. What it does, it doesn't enable it to go too far. It's not like it's going to go through and start pushing out the end because of the way it's got a little neck on it. So it doesn't go in, but that gets rid of all the cruddy bits. That is probably the only time you'd need an ultrasonic cleaner to get out those bits perhaps down in the nozzle which are really crusty. But again, if you soak it and give it a run with a reamer and then the back end of the little brush in there as well, then you're absolutely fine. So, you know, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. You know, again, good maintenance, good keeping your airbrush clean. Just make sure, you know, at the end of the day that you give it a, you know, a nice clean out and the various things, then you should be absolutely fine with it. You know, again, it's just taking your time, finish, wipe it all down, keep it nice and clean, keep the body clean, the trigger assembly, everything else like that, and you should be absolutely fine with it. Remember, it's a tool at the end of the day.
And don't forget as well, when you leave your airbrush overnight, you have it sat at a slight angle and just put a drop of airbrush cleaner in the colour cup, and it just keeps everything nice, clean in there. And if there is any excess paint in there, it'll stop the needle from sticking. Nice little tip is that one.
Yeah, and also if you ever get your needle sticking a lot, have a look at my Super Lube video. because that's what that'll prevent as well. Because the seal and the needle, because they've got super lube on them, not only does it make a good seal, but it stops it jamming. So if you're one of these people who comes to your airbrush and you do this and it's locked every time you get to it, if you lube your needle, you'll be fine. Or you can be like Hans, who takes his needle out after every use, because he's good like that. The rest of us, like me, I leave paint in mine and all sorts. But you know, if you don't take it out, all that. Oh, you've got needle juice. Oh, that's the Badger one, is it? Ah. What's that one like?
It's kind of a very thick liquid. Once I strip my airbrush, I do use it. Kind of an oily substance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does work really well. You know, definitely worthwhile to use for all your O-rings and all that good stuff. I've had this bottle for 10 years and I've used maybe that much.
Yeah, I know, I'm the same. This is my first ever, for the equivalent of mine, my first ever bottle of, I can get the camera to change, come on, change over it. There we go. This is my first ever thing of super lube, and I'm probably halfway through a bottle. But it's probably never full right up from new anyway. But I've had this now for the last 15 years or something. Because you say you just use the smallest smidging of it, isn't it? You don't like squirt this around. It's literally like I showed on the video. I put a tiny bit on my finger and just run it up and down the needle, and that's it.
Yeah, I just turn it over like that on the cap, and I just lay the needle on there and just run it through there.
Just drag it,
roll it, drag
Yeah.
it, and that's all it takes.
No, very nice.
I need
Definitely.
a bottle.
Have you not got anything?
Mine's kind of leaked out. Obviously, didn't put the lid on properly, and I just find an oily puddle in the drawer.
Don't you just hate it when that happens?
Oh, it's like when you knock over an expensive bottle of enamel wash or glue. Oh, you cry.
It's all right if you're on a cutting mat. You can sort of get a paper towel, soak it up, and then wring it out into the bottle. I've done that before. In fact, I've done that to Micro Sol before. Before I started doing this with it, I must admit, I've knocked over bottles. It's done that, and I'll get a clean paper towel, put it down, pick it up, wring it out, put it back in the bottle.
But it's like I use, you know, these tall bottles of washes and stuff like that. I'll use the, you know, the blue gel thing from your bottle opener.
Yeah.
I use that now, put it in there. It's just perfect size. You can put any of our products that we use in there, because it obviously stretches a bit, but it just sticks on your table and you just can't knock it over. It just stays there. So, because if I put it in a roll of tape, now in mine, I'd knock it and it'd wobble a bit, and then all the product is soaked into the tape, and then I'd ruin the tape. As you can see the state of that by looking at the number of stuff I've not this.
Yeah.
But I'm not bothered. It goes in there.
That's it. We'll have to invent a Flory Models range of bottle holders for all the different sized bottles. This little rack that you put your little paints in that you're using on your desk. That's it. I'm patenting this idea before everyone floods me. I'm going to have this little thing. It's going to be a foot long, just a thing, and it's heavy. And then you put your bottles in it, and it stops them knocking off. So when you're working on your thing, we call it the Benchmate. That's it. I'm copywriting all of this. I've said it live on that. It's copyrighted now.
I've just heard that it's already been 3D printed by somebody. You know.
Oh right.
Copy your ideas. So.
That's it. I've said it live on air, so they can't do it now. So that's it. I've got that covered.
Mine's Ricky.
Okay. Right. Ricky says, "Hi guys. Great job on the Friday show updates. He loves them. Do you guys know of anybody or how to make the sets for decals for masking for the Breitling Jet Team's L39s? I would love to do an L39 in this color scheme. Have you guys if you guys never seen the Jet Team, go see them. Yes, we see them every year at RIAT. They're always there for that one. They're as good as any military team. Thank you guys for all you do, Ricky." Now, Hans was having a look for this, and who did we come up with?
It's called Toulouse Decals. Looks like a French company. This is 7 scale, so I'm not quite sure if he's after 48 scale, but let's see if we can. So somehow show this. Let's see.
They looked really
There we
like
go.
decals. So I did have some, but I think I gave mine away to somebody, and they did look rather nice.
Well, it's nice because they do the blue and the gold, isn't it? So
Yeah,
hold
you
on,
know, there's quite a
make it full screen.
okay. Yeah, there's quite a few. There's quite a few different schemes though. So that the big trick is it doesn't say specifically which year and what scale, but this is the one that I could dig up fairly quickly. But it looks like there are some schemes around. You're going to have to do a little bit of research and just in your Google, just type in, you know, the scale and then just say L39 Albatross, Breitling demo team or jet team, and you'll get quite a few hits and just kind of search through that. But this is a French decal company. And let's see, when were they released? 2005 is when they were available. Let's see. There's no reviews, nothing else. And their email address is jaguar52@hotmail.fr. Jaguar52@hotmail.fr. That's their only contact way. I've never heard of these guys, so. But.
Looks nice though, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Cool.
If
not, we got a man who can do it.
Yeah. But Phil mentioned that, you know, it's because of copyright. That's the only problem. If Ron could do it.
Yeah. As I say, the trouble that you can come across, obviously, is for Ron to make them is copyright, because Breitling is a trademark. So they might get the ump at that point. Don't want to get into trouble. Okay, right. Who wants to do Eric's question?
Eric. Hi, Phil, Steve, Hans. Phil, in your update on the A10, where you sprayed the whole aircraft, spelled wrong, whole, you know, aircraft in black primer, you've mentioned that black basing isn't your thing. Can you tell us why? I'm planning on using black basing on my A10 and think it would look okay. I saw Steve use the pre-shading. Maybe his thoughts, and Hans as well, about the subject. Red show, guys.
Mine's easy. I basically explain it when we do the painting of this, is that when I do any big aircraft, I like to do them in black, purely because it gives them a more solid look. And it's very easy. We speak about it with the space shuttle, which I still haven't fixed, which is still leaning, which worries me a lot. Anyway, the thing is that when they get bigger, if you are going grey and you put grey on, they can look quite light, but I don't know if you can probably see it on here, but when it's in black, it just makes it look solid. It makes the paintwork look proper, if you know what I mean. So that's why I always tend to do on big stuff, no matter what it is, you get to a certain scale of stuff, I will do it in black, purely because of that reason. I was going to have to do the canopy and the bits and pieces anyway, so I just went round it. And to be honest, I used tire back. I just went round on this one and put XF56 right the way over it, because I had a lot of it as my black colour. No problem with it. We did all the seam checks with it, everything else like that, and then we went in, and all I did was a mottly type of effect. As I said, it's stage 1 painting on this right the way through, but it wasn't through black basing, because like we've spoken about this, is that when you do black basing, it's very easy, and I probably 90% of all the ones that I've seen been done, they've overcooked it, i.e. at some point they've just gone too far, and all of a sudden it's gone from looking really nice, and then, oh, it's gone. Or it's just a half of what it used to be. And then other times you'll see it and a guy will nail it and it looks absolutely perfect, but the amount of time it takes to do that, I haven't got time to flaff around with it, so I just chucking it all down and that's it. So I do prefer normally to pre-shade. I just find it's easier, it's the quickest, and it works best with my style of weathering. And that's the other thing as well, it's what works best for you, your style of weathering and how you want to do things. So for instance, with me, I'm quite into my panel line washes and fading centers of panels and doing things like that. So technically pre-shading works very well because I've darkened out the panels, the lighter is in the center. But you get other people and they'll lighten the panel lines and they want darker center. So perhaps then technically, you know, doing the sort of, you know, black basing might work better for those types of things. But just my personal opinion. But I know the other guys have theirs.
Sure. This is my F-16 that I've been working on for almost a year now. I started doing black basing on the bottom just to learn and just kind of come up with a different way of doing things. And I don't think it even shows up on camera very well. It does have some interesting little models in there. And like Phil is saying, you know, it's very easy to overcook that technique. You know, if you don't pay attention, within like seconds, you can overblow it and have to redo it basically. But little blotchy spots in the paint in here. But I don't think you can really see that on camera very well. It's much more subtle to the eye. It does give you some interesting effects, but you got to be extremely patient. Use thin paints throughout your process, and it's kind of one of these things. You know, it's that technique actually has been around for quite a while. It seems to kind of make a comeback right now, and it's just another way of showing weathered paint, if you will, and see some variations in the color. It's a neat technique, but you got to be extremely patient, no doubt about it. So unfortunately, I don't think this example can really show you though. It's hard to tell, but there is some blotchy.
It's hard to see on grey.
Yeah, it's just there's too much reflection off of that. It just looks like, you know, but in looking at it in a darker area, you can really see it. But it's kind of interesting. But like Phil is indicating, using black as an undercoat. I'm just trying to get this aircraft position without breaking any antennas. You know, having black as an undercoat for me, for my eyesight, instead of gray paint, it really helps me see the differences where I might have missed a little edge or a little bit of glue or a scratch, and I can clean that off, and it gives a little bit more scale weight to the aircraft. There's something underneath the paint that kind of shines through. And it definitely helps with post shading, you know, going the other way around rather than pre-shading. I think it works pretty well using a black undercoat. So that's my story.
Definitely. Steve?
No, I'll just grab the A10 again so you can see it better. Not to knock it on anything. I don't know. I prefer doing the old normal pre-shading method. I don't know how well that's getting. Shows on the camera a little bit that way. It's because of the light. Don't know if it's showing up too well.
Yeah.
But it's like I've done on there. It's an easy way of quickly doing it. You can still put all your squiggles and all that. And build the coats up lightly. You can still see on the side there where I need to put a bit more paint. But that's just taking me time and getting it done. But the main reason I've done it on this is also it's a different technique to what Phil were using. Personally, I like using, like I said, pre-shading this way. It's good. I've used, even though it's black, it looks more dark grey. It's the colour underneath. But I also allow the grey of the primer to come through whenever I put a base colour on. And I love post shading afterwards. That's where I get most of my effects come from post shading. Because apart from using just simple colours, you've got your base colour, add either black, white, or another dark grey. Because some greys have a kind of a browny tint, that's really nice as well. You can just change the base colour just ever so slightly. You don't need to go mad, and then you can just start changing the panel colour. Put a bit of staining so it looks a bit motley effect, lighting areas. So I prefer post shading, gives you a lot more better weathering. I think it is a lot better, and it makes the paintwork a lot more than allowing purely on pre-shading the black basing. Especially black basing, it's good if you can do it. But there's not many that can do it. You see, a lot of people see these really, really skilled modelers. They start using this new technique, and because they're using it, they've got to use it. And it doesn't suit their style of modelling. So just do what works best for you. Don't worry about what the current fashion is. you know, even if it's really old school, if it works and produces the results that you want, go use that. You know,
and to be honest, that's what it's all about, though. Don't forget, it's black basing was the original. People used to use it as the primer colour and then to paint on. And this goes back to the 70s with airbrushing when it was starting to sort of pick up speed and everything through the 80s. Black basing is nothing new. That was what was done back then. And then the fad sort of moved over to using grey as a primer, and then pre-shading was always the big thing. And here we are. And to be honest, it's just like fashion. You know, there's a lot of things as modelers, especially the younger guys coming through, probably don't realise this is just old school stuff that's been around since, you know, dawn of time with modelling. But now, as I said, it's, you know, you'll get perhaps a modeler who really is into it in a big way. He puts up a few videos and it's the new thing. It's not the new thing at all. And to be honest, in modelling, there isn't a lot of stuff that's new. It's just things tend to come around, and no doubt it will die a death. And next thing you know, pre-shading, and everyone will be like, oh. And it's not new, it's just go around. But like I say with all of these, it's a technique, and techniques are personal to the modeler. So you'll get a modeler and he might try black basing, and all of a sudden it works. Brilliant, stick with it. That's what is your thing. You got it down, nailed, no problem at all. The same with pre-shading. You love it, you go down. I know people who hate pre-shading with a vengeance, you know, and they say, oh, it's unrealistic and it's this and that. Again, if it's done right, I find black basing, I've seen some people, I find it very unrealistic and all the rest of it. But it is that thing. If it works for you and you are getting the effect that you want, that's what matters, because it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. Don't forget, it's your model, not theirs. You're building for you, not for anybody else, okay? Because that's why you get the enjoyment out of doing it, and that is the type of weathering you like. So you might get somebody who does a type of weathering and it's really strong and in your face, and they might like that type. You might get somebody else and they think, yeah, but I prefer my jets to be like this or like that. So just remember, it's personal to you, so there is no right and wrong with any of this. You know, it's just personal.
But don't you find it's like with the modulation technique that was brought back in?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good and well, and it looks good done right. But then it starts going from just right, and then people start moving the, you know, finishing line of it, and it keeps going and going. And then they start overdoing it and taking it to the extreme, and then it becomes too unnatural looking.
Right.
You know, an actual photograph, say they've done a olive drab tank, and it's never in a million years would a tank look like the result that they've ended up with, and it's too far gone. So it's, yeah, just find what works for you. Don't follow fashion. You know, nobody follows fashion, especially at our age. No, I don't.
He's a fashion leader. We follow him.
Yeah.
Apart from the beard. Well, I'm not sure about that. That'd drive me mad by now. But no, that is it.
Somebody's even placing bets on when I'm going to get it cut. Might just keep it.
I know. We've all got a fiver on this.
I bet you have.
Keep it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm going to go for the Dumbledore look. It'd be great for next Christmas. So.
It's a bit distinguished, actually. But yeah, well, I keep it till 12th. You know, if people have a whip round for charity. Sure,
well, that's it. That's it. Well, go on, keep it going. Also, you can put your tools in it, can't you? Put your tweezers in there, and you're like, you know, all your cocktail sticks, some pegs.
In there.
Yeah,
there you go.
He's got his scriber, so it'll be the next modelling thing. You need a modeller's beard to put your tools in, because you get hairdressers, don't they? They put scissors and combs in their hair, and they're doing it, and hair clips. So that's it now. Just have a beard. Sorted. Right, okay, Donald says, greetings gentlemen, are you still planning on building Edard's 1/48 scale Skyhawk and F-86 models? I'm guessing they'll be longer than a one-day build, but not quite as large a project as the A10 is with all the extra details. I'm hoping that these simple kits will still be in place the video build schedule. Yes, they are. Don't panic. As I say, I'm not going to be running straight into the A10 and the ME262 quite yet. I'm going to be doing a nice simple one, which probably is going to be the scooter. So I'm planning on doing the A4 as a straightforward out of the box. Got a couple of little goodies in there, being the Edard one, but I quite fancy doing that. As I said, it'll probably just be like a 2-week build. straightforward, no messing around with it. We'll show you various tips and tricks for doing with, say, like with light gold greys and things like that, and with the white scheme, simple wash job on it. It is very much a favourite of mine, and we're doing that one. And obviously the F86, I would like to do that, to have another go with doing sort of the natural metal finishes as well. So what I'm going to be doing, as Hans has got a very nice one down there, is doing something very similar.
I've got to say, Phil, if you fancy it, go for the 1 to 32nd Haddad P47s. Have a go at knocking them together.
Oh, what? Just as a one-day build?
Not as a one-day build. You know, but fine. It won't go as a one-day build.
Things are huge.
Yeah, you can have a go at it.
Yeah, I am going to do it because it's going to go quite nicely. I've got a nice collection going now of 32nd scale aircraft. So I've got like P51. We've done the Spitfire. You know, and stuff like that. So it's a case of, right, all right, so now we can just do that. We do a Thunderbolt, get that in there, it'd be very nice. A few of the others. But no, that's
fun. Yeah, thanks. They're fun little kits. They actually go together very well, and they've been around for, God, I think these are 1980s mold. No, maybe a little later. I've built a ton of these things.
Yeah, I have, literally. I don't know actually how many of those I've actually built now, but commission days was the same gentleman that I did the F-18s for. I think I did around about 25, 35, something like that of them. But they are nice. The only trouble I used to find with them is the intakes. You just need a little bit of play and just a bit of finesse to get those intakes on there, and that because you've got the electronics hump on that version. To get that just to sit in, but the actual kit itself is seamless. It's beautiful fit. The noses always go on nice as well because they all have different types of nose that goes on them, but they all fit together really nice. But the wing seam and the detail inside the wheel wells as well is beautifully done on those. You know, straightforward out the kits. All I did was put a resiny aftermarket seat in them. That's all they had. So really very nice kits.
Yeah, they're very fun. Build up really nice. Quite fun little kit.
We're definitely going to be doing something like that very, very soon, as you say. This one, I'm hoping within the next 10 days it will be done, and then we'll be straight onto that one. We need something nice, straightforward and simple. Then, as I say, we have got the King Tiger with the full internals and everything else. Got the review of that coming up next week. So that one will be up with you to give you an idea. That's what I'm planning on doing with that. So Armour guys, fear not, I have got something big and meaty coming up for that. Then we've got the ME262 as well, those aftermarket bits and pieces, although Hans did point out to me some very nice aerials for that, for the radar set on the front, which I need to get that one. They were beautiful, Italian brass ones, lovely.
Yeah, you just reminded me then, you've got my Tiger, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got your normal Tiger here, which I've never seen before. The RVF, is it?
Right
field models. Yes, so I might do 2 Tiger kits then. We'll do the Tiger 1 and the King Tiger next week if I get them both done in time.
They've both got interiors as well, which is good.
Yeah, they're both very nice kits. So yeah, definitely. Okay, so Donald was saying, greetings, gentlemen. Are you still... Yeah, sorry, we've done that one. Also, have you ever considering tackling a different type of model kit? I'm specifically thinking of the 1/70th scale Saturn V or Saturn 1B by Apogee, components here in the States. And he's done a link to it down below. They are styrene paper tube construction built as flying models, but with complete represented probably the first stage module of the ironic satins that you can buy. They are huge. I have seen it. The shuttle build, it'd be lovely to see more examples of spacecraft builds. Finally, thanks for all you do for the hobby. We did have a look at the thing before. We said we'd launch one. Probably not something like that, but Dragon, is it Dragon did that monster 1/72nd?
Yeah, somebody like that, yeah.
And didn't it Airfix did one back in the day as well, I think. But I'm sure Dragon did a very nice one as well. I would love to do one of those to go along with the shuttle in 72nd. Because don't forget, I've got the 72nd shuttle up there, which is a bit of a monster. And obviously the full build of that is up on the site, which is definitely worrying me. Hold on, I'll just grab it before it falls over. That's how big it is, everyone. It's a monster. It was up there, right? And it's on there because obviously I've got the booster set for it, and it's like this. It's like, oh my god, it's coming off. But yeah, so yes, really nice one. This one's got. We did all the tile work on it, everything else, and we redid it all. But again, it is that thing. It's so big, it's almost toy-like. So.
Yeah, but to be honest, Phil, if you turn round to Mel and said your next build is going to be of a 60-inch space rocket with actual engines that can go for a house, I think you'd be doing it down on Newton Abbot Beach or Torquay Beach.
Yeah, we probably would. Yeah,
she won't let that.
I think she won't trust me with any type of pyros. That's it for certain. But as for a workable one, probably not. Although I did look at it, it's very nice detail on that, I have to say. But I would like to do the Saturn V, which somebody did. I'm sure it was Dragon. I can't remember exactly. And I'd love to get a hold of that kit for the future, just to go along with this one, because you guys know about the sci-fi modeler side of it as well. That's going to probably be quite a nice one for them. So I might build it for them. That'd be fine. Okay, Chris says, hi guys, I joined a couple of weeks ago and I'm learning a lot from your videos. If you don't mind, I have a quick question. Is there such a thing as an odorless alternative to Tamiya thin glue? I have a partner who has a very sensitive nose. Now, my last comment to this got me into a lot of trouble, but so we won't say that joke again, because it was a joke. But Hans did a bit of research, and we were talking about this earlier. We've come up with this one. So I call it Lime 1, but apparently it's not. It's Limonene 1, Limonene cement.
Limonene, right, from
Limonene,
the lemon.
That was it. Yeah, apparently it smells like citrus. We think it might not be as thin. That's the only thing. None of us have actually tried it. Now this stuff, I do believe, is the stuff that they put into schools in Japan. That's why it smells the way it does. So it basically is a citrus smell instead of your normal glue smell. We assume it's still a hot type product, but it could be more like a resin product as well. So the brushes as well, we were saying about that, isn't it got the thicker type brush rather than the small little thin one?
Yeah, this guy did a little review on it, and it looks like it has a thicker brush on it, is basically what it says.
Which
and it says
leads us to believe it's probably not as thin as extra thin because of that, isn't it?
Yeah. It says the brush is clear plastic with clear bristles and is quite large, so it doesn't have the really skinny one on it. Compared to the brush from extra thin, it's huge.
If you've got extra thin, you can swap it over.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I did that with the white one.
Yeah, I did.
Let's see. It says the glue doesn't work as quickly as extra thin, but after 5 minutes, I did get the melted plastic glue to squeeze slightly out of the joint. So it stays softer, a little slower setting. It looks like after 30 minutes, I pulled the two parts apart and could still see that there was melting efforts going on. While it doesn't create as strong as an adhesive bond as quickly as extra cement, it does work well and hold the model together. So that might be your best bet, straight bottle solution, I would say.
The one that I'm doing online testing at the moment, and I know Steve's working with it as well, and he's very impressed, is this stuff. Now, this is Plastic Magic by Deluxe Materials. It's not as cheap. It's a little bit more expensive than the extra thin, but it's not as smelly. It does smell, I'm not going to lie. It is still got a whiff to it, but it's not by no means as much as extra thin. Extra thin you can actually smell, I admit. If you're in a room, like to me, I think I'm immune to it now. My nasal passages have just burnt out. But you know, generally, if you have got extra thin on the go and you're not used to it, you can smell it. But this stuff, I must admit, I don't really recognize. You know, it doesn't particularly have a strong smell or anything else like that. So I do quite like this stuff. And as I say, it's not as thin as extra thin. Still got very good capillary action, but because it's a little bit thicker, it doesn't dry quite as quick. So, you know, that thing, if you brush it as a top surface, so like on here, if you used to brush it across here, it's not going to instantly go like extra thin. It's going to take about 30 seconds, then it will go, and then it will be dry and touchable. But in that first section, you probably want to weight of it. But if you have, you can get hold of something, you want to give something else a go, this definitely is not as strong as smell. It does smell, but it's not as strong, I don't think, as extra thin. But it could be my nose is just so used to extra thin after all these years that I just can't tell anymore. The nasal passages have gone up.
I've got to say, it may cost more than extra thin, but to be honest, I don't think you use as much. Nowhere near as much.
No, well,
I think
I don't seem to have used any.
Yeah, it grips so much better. Really does. I'm going to say, talking of deluxe materials, do you ever try that super glue that I sent? That I gave to
I
you?
haven't tried it yet. I have tried one tiny little thing, but that wasn't on a model. But yeah, that's that one as well, which they call Rocket, which is something else, Rapid Rocket. But as I say, I've opened it because I did it on something else I needed a quick bit of super glue for, and it worked a treat on that.
Yeah,
but,
I absolutely love deluxe material products. Do get the job done.
Yeah, no, they do. As I say, they're a little bit more expensive, but they seem to do the trick very, very nicely. So that's okay. Right, okay, so how are we doing on time? Half past, okay. So Alan says, quick question for Stephen Hans. How do you make windscreens look dusty or dirty? Over to you two.
Well,
He quite clearly knows I don't do it.
Steve actually taught me this little trick, which works extremely well. Unfortunately, the two vehicles that I did apply that are at the hobby shop on display over there. But basically using Tamiya X55 Deck 10 or XF57 Buff. Get it into like a 90% thinner solution. Just Tamiya lacquer thinner is what I tend to use. And then just lightly overspray the windscreen. And if you want to have the perfect, like a little arch or arc that's on the windows that you see with the windshield wipers, just put some Tamiya tape, cut it out in that shape, and then just brush it over and pull the tape, and there you go.
Yeah, you can also use enamel washes are good for it. Fills wash is good. You can just brush that on. If you're doing your masking tape first, you've got to remember, don't just cut a semicircle. How you think it is, you've got to take the whole blade into account, the old wiper blade. So you need obviously it's only got to be as wide as the actual wiper blade, but the arm on the wiper blade, you've got to take that into account when you're working out the arc that the blade's got to go at. So that's one thing you've got to do, because it looks silly if you don't get the correct semicircle. But yeah, that's the best way. It's also good for side windows. Make sure you do not put any clear varnish, any clear over the windows before you put the paint on. That's one thing.
Right.
But when put it on the side windows as well, and then once it's dried, get a cotton bud and Q-tip and just rub over the window so it looks as though the guy just decking his hand, just wiped over the window so you can see out, and that makes a nice little interesting effect. You can put it on, you can even add a little bit of graffiti as though on a soldier just turn around and just written some back at window, like clean me or something like that. There's all sorts of things you can do. But yeah,
also available in sand.
Yeah, that's a good one. But don't any product, any varnishes on your window first, because you won't get the paint off when you come to remove it if you want to do. So yeah, just play around. It's you can use all sorts of products to achieve it.
Cool. Well done, guys. Okay, Malcolm says, chaps, I'm going to be bending propellers and wings for a crash dio. Best way to do it? Carefully. Heating it slightly. The thing is, we spoke about this before, props, that's not so much of a problem. You can actually do that almost by hand. Just heating it, obviously you could use like a tea light, a bit of heat, a lighter, hot air gun, anything like it. When you're doing wings though, that's a different story, because there's so much plastic and it's thicker. The stresses and tolerances, if you're trying to do it, you're going to end up just melting a bit and then getting a bit to bend. So it's very, very difficult to do it in an easy type of way. It's amazing. I had a plane, actually it was a Herc, 72nd scale Herc years ago. This is when I was young, and it was on the parcel shelf of a car in the summer, and the wings went literally, they bent down completely and touched the actual parcel shelf at the back. So yeah, it does work, but the thing is, that's because I presume it's been heated very, very slowly in the sun, and then it drooped and did it. But I think if you was to be pulling it too much, you're going to put too much stress onto it. What we were saying, that obviously props, rotors and stuff, you can bend them quite straightforward, no problem. But if you're dealing with a wing, that is totally different, because obviously you need to heat up all of the entire wing to try and bend it and everything else. So you might be trying to, best way is to thin the plastic so it's bendable. So actually sand into it or carve into it to get it to go thinner, then try and bend it and stuff like that. So then that way you can do it. But we were saying really, tea lights, just heating it up over a little candle, trying to get it to go, you know, where you can physically bend it and do it that way. Props, it's very straightforward. It's just wings. If you're trying to bend wings, that's another ball game, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you'll have to undercut it with a Dremel tool and just make it as thin as possible, right? You're looking at a skin material that's being ripped as you crash. So you might see some deformation to the wing, but most of the damage, depending on what kind of crash you want to depict, of course, but you'll see like ripping of that aluminum skin off of the under structure more than anything, and you'll have to just thin it out with scraping it with blades or a Dremel tool, and then use that, and then go through the top, drill little holes, and then peel it back. Pretty tricky though, you know. I don't think you can take a wing and just heat it up and bend it. It's just, you're going to put too much stress on it.
The thing is, I think, as you say, if you're going to be doing a crash diorama, I think you see a lot of guys do it where they'll cut the plastic for the wings, but the bits which are seen, they'll use even sheet metal, very thin aluminium foils and stuff like that to give the effect of skin that has been bent and twisted, rather than using the plastic. So you could use like photo etch, sheet photo etch. You can buy from, is it KS Materials, do that thin metal sheets, very thin. It's like a sheet of photo etch with nothing on it. But also, you say you can use foils, various things. So you thin the wing and then have the jump off point, and then it goes to the metal. Then you can deform and twist it and put it into all those areas properly, rather than trying to just take a plastic wing, because the scale effect of the thickness of like a bit of styrene, that's assumed that it's, I don't know, 0.5 mil thick, isn't going to be realistic to the skin of an actual aircraft and things like that. So there you go, I've just got a sheet of it there. So using something like that will give you a far more realistic, and then that way you don't have to worry about bending it, because it'll bend just like metal, So, but the other way is like wine bottles, the stuff around that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically what
I used to do that.
Foil.
Yeah. If you get a knife, and take it off all your bottles and then keep it, it works really well for that type of stuff, because that's what I used to use a lot of the time. Because that way it's totally flexible, and because it's that type of lead effect, it just bends and holds its shape, rather than a metal that has a little bit of spring in it. But if you're planning on doing some type of dio which is in that type of environment, then that's what I would do. I think I'd be more inclined to say, okay, let's thin the wing from the plastic, okay, to a point, and then continue it with the metal, and then bend the ends of it and crunch it up if you're doing that type of thing. Props, that's easy. You can just bend them literally by hand because of the size of them. But the thing is, as I say, wings and that type of thing, you're going to want to have a more in-scale look to the destruction, rather than just trying to wing it on a bit of plastic that's been, scrapped.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we? Where are we to?
Next page. I think next page.
Okay, so Alan says, evening Phil, Steve, and afternoon to Hans. Love the videos from Steve and Hans, which shows that there's more than one way to do the same thing. Couldn't help but notice that both of you wear a glove on your left hand. Is there a reason for this? Personally, I wear a glove on both hands to avoid fingerprints and painting myself on the model. Well, this is because they're both into Michael Jackson tribute bands.
Yeah.
Gonna get the sparkly ones. I think that's the way. So yeah, go on then.
Well, I'm a cheapskate.
Well, we know that.
Well, that's so I only use one glove and they last longer. But no, I only do it because of the model when I'm airbrushing, and it stops any grease getting off me fingers or fingerprints accidentally getting into the paintwork. And that's all I do it for. Because if you're holding a model, continuously hold your hand like that for 10 minutes while you're airbrush, the oil in your fingers, it's got to stain and mark the paint, or your nails might scratch the paint. Wearing a glove just protects it.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with Steve. You know, I just use one on my left hand where I'm holding the model. The glove is just more for just overspray and getting paint on your hands. And then as you're using more hotter paints, you got to take it off with thinner. And I get extremely dry hands. They crack and everything else. And especially when you're rubbing it with thinner, you get that whitish kind of look to your skin. You're absorbing all that material, probably not very healthy. But also, your hands tend to be very warm when you're holding the model. With the glove, there's just one more layer that doesn't transfer the heat. And like Steve is saying, scratching with your nails or just oily residue slowly but surely starts tarnishing your paint. So just one hand, and the other hand, I'm triggering the airbrush. And if you have had vinyl gloves on, you get quite sweaty in there, and it's just not as handy to trigger the airbrush. So and you know, just one is plenty for me.
And in case if you're thinking again on it, usually these types of gloves are latex, but I use mine's made of nitrile, so it's non-allergenic basically. So you don't, and the black just looks better. You can just test your airbrush, your pen on the back of your hand, see if you're getting a nice even line. Stuff like that. Nitrile.
I guess they're nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can just
I
go
have
on
got
it.
them.
Yeah.
Just to point out, I'm not that bad. I do have them. Don't worry. I do have a box of them. I use the purple ones purely because of Mel's old job, because she was a nurse, so she had a car full of them. So that's it. I will now join the club.
There you go.
I'm good to go now, so I feel so much better.
So fancy. I want that purple glove.
If you want a box, I'll send you some. So yes, yeah, it's again. We spoke about this before. I used to all the time. Now I'm just lazy. But I always used to say I used to do the same thing, only on the left for holding the item as I'm working on it. Purely because on this hand, I used to find on the right hand, the rubber would stick to the airbrush a little bit, and it used to just be, I don't know, it just never fitted right. It was always uncomfortable. You tend to sweat in them a little bit as well, so that's why I don't. But a lot of it is we were saying, you know, aesthetics, get the paint in your hands. It's not so bad if you're using acrylics, especially things like Vallejo that are very soft, because you just wash your hands in warm water and it all comes off. If you're using MRPs, forget it. It's on your nails until you sand it off, or we were saying before, you hit it with a very hot product, i.e. lacquer thinners, which probably isn't the best thing to your hands because they do go dry and powdery after you've had that all over them. So from that point of view, not the best thing in the world to do. But again, it's just a personal thing.
Yeah, but I wear one when I'm doing weathering as well, especially with like enamel products. Obviously, it stays off your hands because enamel thinners and light spirits, I don't know, the odor sticks in your fingers, doesn't it? And it smells forever. But it just protects your model again. You know, you don't want fingerprints or anything like that on you throughout. And just to put, for the sake of a cheap glove that costs a couple of pence, just stick one on.
Yeah, definitely. He also goes on to say, Phil, as you've mentioned on numerous occasions about using styrene sheet to make up your homebrew filler, please remind Hans of this as he still uses old sprue. Is this true?
Yes, it is.
You're a heretic.
I know. It's terrible. Remember, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? So.
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
You know.
Also, the thing is, in his defence, because I'll give him one before I go and clout him. But clearly, my problem is that not all sprues are the same. You get some very soft sprue, but honestly, if you want to use sprue, Hasegawa stuff is quite good. because it's very hard stuff. It's when you drop it, you hear that sort of ching to it.
Yeah.
Whereas you drop, old trumpeter, and it's nothing. It's like thud. An Airfix as well, very soft plastics. And I think what happens is if you're using the softer sprue, you get a softer filler, takes longer to dry, and it shrinks more. That's my thing.
Yeah, I just
you've got to go in there.
yeah, I got two. One that's pretty thin, and one that's I want to say medium thick, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's all it's actually trumpeter sprue is what I use, and it just because I build a lot of trumpeter kits, it's the same hardness, I guess, is that what I want to call it. So it sands the same, it behaves the same, it scribes the same. But different ways to make different fillers. Nothing wrong with using white styrene. This is what I started off with, and I've been using it. It works fine with me until I use it.
Yeah, you make a good point though, and that is probably the big thing here is that Hans is saying he's used trumpeter sprue because he builds trumpeter, so it's the same medium being put on the model. But if you were using perhaps trumpeter stuff onto an Airfix one, because it's technically different plastics then, as it goes through, you're going to end up with differences between the two. So you might get one that's harder or softer, one's a bit more liable to shrinkage than the other. That's probably why he's getting away with, having no issues with it whatsoever, purely because of that. But if you used it perhaps into a Hasegawa plastic, you will probably notice the difference, especially when you do the rescribing trick, because the loveliest thing about it is for rescribing and re-riveting, it is the same as what you're working on. That's why I like doing it. So that thing where you're just going along with a scribing tool, if you use perhaps your traditional, putties, you go along and you drop into it and you end up making a big trench. Okay, if you're not careful. Whereas if you're using styrene, it's no difference. And the same with riveting. You're going along doing rivets, and then all of a sudden you're like boom, and you put a big one in because it's quite soft. If you're using it in the same way, that's the thing. But the only reason I always say about use styrene sheet is I have people all the time say to me, Phil, it hasn't worked, what's wrong, and all the rest of it. I took a load of sprue and I chopped it up, but it's because it's different manufacturers' sprues as well. They've put a bit of this in, a bit of that in there, and because then they use it onto a model, you get that difference. But with styrene sheet, it's pure. There's no softness into it. It is what it is. So I was saying, if you want a good starting off point, then go for that. But if you are just using Airfix, for instance, all the time, use Airfix sprue. You'll have no problem with it. But I'm just simply saying, if you want to get in there and get best results, minimum shrinkage, dries really quickly as well, then I would use a styrene sheet. That's the only thing to it. Okay, so Mark says, we'll do this and then I'm going to do the prize draw. Okay, so Mark Kennedy says, hi chaps, I have some questions if I may. First, Phil's A10, the nacelles on each wing, why there's one with opening and one isn't? You mean this bit down here versus this one here? These are actually the gear ones. The gear on the A10 folds up forward and then drops down. This one is open because it's actually the main refueling point into the aircraft. So it's actually a separate piece. It hangs down and then it has the refueling inserts, the old plug-in and lock-in system onto that one. That's what it is. A10's always on the ground, have them open. It comes with it in the open position, so the end cap drops down, has it in. It's a push-in fit, so it's easier to paint it and detail it when off the aircraft than it is all in there. The other one on this side will be painted black and done separately, a little bit more this week, but that is the reason for that. How smelly the MRP paints? Wish to try them out, but haven't done any spraying with a spray booth extractor. Well, we were saying about this, with all paints, if you're in a good area, they're going to smell, but we have all mentioned this before, we don't think they're as bad as people make out. They're no different really from spraying any type of one, especially if you've got a lacquer-based paint going through it. It's not as smelly as some out there, like Alclad, I think is a particularly strong smell. But with them all, just good ventilation. If you use an extractor, you have no problem at all. But Hans, we were pointing out earlier, he doesn't. He's fine. He's still alive. But still for the moment, till the end of the show anyway. But the thing is,
that's right.
His room is huge. He's got a big room, and when he does big spraying, he goes down to his basement, which is even bigger. It's a big area. It's not like he's in a 4-foot box spraying and breathing all that stuff in. He's in a nice big area, and he usually has everything nicely well ventilated. So he does open the doors and the windows and everything and gets a through flow with it. So that's why he gets away with it, because he's in a nice big area. But generally, if you're doing it in a small room, just make sure you've got some good ventilation, or if not, get a respirator and breathe in those things.
Yeah, I basically got a whole bay of windows right here that I can open up. Granted, it's winter time right now, and I won't, but crack it open a little bit, and I get pretty good draw.
Absolutely. Right, okay, just trying to whip through these. I've been building the 148 scale Airfix BF109E1. I'm in the weathering stage. I have a full set of Flory washes. I'm wondering what would be the best colour to use on it. Dark dirt every time. Just go with dark dirt. If you find it's too strong, use your other colours, and you can just go right over the top with it, things like that. But dark dirt is the jack of all trades colour with this one. Now he's at the decaling stage, and we're going to give the model a coat of Future, then put on the Flory's wash. That's the one, Hans, good man. And then put on the coat of Future, trying the new Ammo oil brushes, and then finish with a flat coat. Yes, that's fine. As long as you put down a gloss coat or a satin finish or something between your decals and the washes and even your oils and everything else, that just stops it getting underneath the carrier film and staining. You'll be absolutely fine. But as you've mentioned it, then flat coat to finish. He's got Vallejo matte varnish or the Humbrol matte spray can, whichever one works best for you. But that's absolutely fine with all those. And I must admit, he's got a very nice looking 109 down there.
Yeah, it looks good.
Just very nice.
Okay, I've got some of those oil brushes.
Oh, you have you? Kept that quiet.
Did you use those yet?
I just got some at a model show just to try out, and I haven't used them really. The dark brown might be a bit too brown, but I might be able to get away with trying that on the A10. But the others is a dusty colour, so I could stick a bit of that on it. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Right. Okay.
Yeah, they look interesting. I watched a little video on them, and pretty interesting just having that pre-thinned and having that brush available. So you just have it all there and just use it. It's pretty nice.
To be honest, the brush is quite good. It's really good on it. Yeah.
Quite interested in using that. Yeah, that looks good.
So there you go, guys. You can do a review on that one. Love to see that.
So that's Steve's job.
Yes,
Steve.
I've got it.
Yeah, if you do that by tomorrow afternoon, that'd be fine. Right. Okay, last one for the minute. Okay, Derek says in there, great show, Phil, Steve and Hans. I'm going to be purchasing a spray booth very soon, and I'm looking at getting the Aircom extraction unit, the base module, the 38 watt, good man, from Everything Airbrush. I've seen the review from Phil about the booth, and my question is, does it come with an extraction tube, and is there any smell by not having one? Yes. Okay, now the thing with this is, we just take the camera there, they don't come with an extraction hose off the back, but you can buy one from them as a separate thing. It's not very expensive, and that way you can just self-tap it. I haven't got mine here, they're under here. They self-tap to the back, and then you can then just run a hose, and then you can do your usual thing. It's got a door jamb thing on it, so you can put it to a window or a door, just for a little slit one. And do it that way, but it doesn't actually come with one. If you don't use one, you are going to get the smell. It will never get rid of the smells. It does have a charcoal filter, it has a particle filter and a charcoal filter. So it is going to get rid of all the nasties into it, but you're not going to get rid of it all. My advice would be get the hose system for it for that little bit of extra. I'm sure Tim can sort you out Everything Airbrush anyway, and then you can do it. If not, you can get one on eBay. They're quite cheap as well. They're not too bad. And you can just stick that to the back and away you go. Right. I'm going to do the prize draw because that takes out. I know we've got a couple more questions. In fact, there's only 2 more questions. Do you want to read one out, Hans? And I'm going to do a random generator.
Okay, sure. Let me check here. This one's from Peter Mathers. Hi, guys. Someone just asked about dusty windows. I think it was Alan. The last dusty car I did used, to me, a matte varnish tinted with Flory washes, and it was very controllable. The Porsche I did on it has he has a build thread on in the forum, so have a look there. So Peter Mathers is the one who who did that and basically uses Tamiya matte varnish tinted with Flory washes. That's a different approach. I haven't used that. I couldn't tell, but it sounds like it's working very well. So look for Peter Matter's thread in the forum. It's a Porsche car, so I bet you it's in the I Must Be German group build, I bet.
Yeah, I can see that working really well. 'Cause I know I've mixed the Flory wash with normal paint. It works fantastic, really, and it basically weathers your base colour instantly, you know, so you mix it with the paint and it's really ineffective. But it's just get used to how much you need to use. And I won't say more about his wash before he gets a big head. You know.
Yeah.
It's not me, what? Mel, it's her.
All right, we'll do the next one while you're still running numbers there, Phil.
Yeah.
So this one's from Anton Dimitrenko. Hi guys, afternoon to y'all. Talking about the styrene filler, I wanted to say that sometimes the sprue works better than the white styrene sheet. I knocked up a bottle of it using the styrene sheet about a month ago, applied it to the model, and it took about 2.5 weeks to dry. Before that, he used the old ICM sprue, and it was a matter of a couple of days before it was sanding ready. So again, it's just, you know, what works for you, different little variations, as you can see. Like I keep saying, there's multiple ways to skin the cat.
I think
Absolutely.
the thickness as well of your filler dictates how quickly it dries. I've noticed when I've had it really thick, you sat waiting forever, but if it's quite thin, it dries a lot quicker. And I don't know, I just prefer it to be more on the thin side than on the thick side. So just play around. If it's drying a long time, just add a bit more glue and just play around.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. If it's thinner, just use a couple of weeks being impatient and try to big fat glob on there and have it, you know, take forever to dry out. What I've noticed also, if you use the thicker variety that I made up, depending on how thin your plastic is, because it is constantly reacting with that plastic, you might all of a sudden see a little bit indentation on the outside of your plastic. So you got to be really careful because it's actually eating into the plastic. And I think I did see on the forum somebody having problems like that where the side of the, I think it was an A10 actually.
It was down on the nose, wasn't it? Melted.
Yeah, on the nose, it started getting, you know, basically bowing in because the filler starts eating into the plastic so hard, right? So you got to be careful. So like Steve says, using little thin layers, it dries quicker, the reaction stops. You can sand it, lay another layer in. So definitely good suggestions.
But then again, with the thick stuff, like you might remember when we did the dolphins, I used really, really thick, a really big dollop of it on the nose because it was awful thick. And I put it on there, but the beauty is then once it did dry, you could shape it correctly and get the nice shape. So that's one good thing about it. And it's easier to sand than if you pull a big chunk of, I don't know, like Phil did with his epoxy glue.
I used 5-minute epoxy on it, and that was a night. I ended up using the belt sander to sand it because I couldn't sand it. It was like the stuff had turned to concrete, so I put it on the belt sander, trying to get it off. Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. That it's one of those seemed a good idea at the time. I'll 5-minute epoxy mine on. Yeah, that bit me. Anyway, we have a winner. So I've just done the random number generator, and it's come up with quite a low one, luckily for me, of 287. And that has gone to, and I don't know, we've got two names here, so I'm going to go with your login name versus your other one. Okay, so it's actually going to Martin, and it's Biddle. So it's Martin Biddle, Biddle. I will be in contact with you. Congratulations, Martin. Hold on, I've been clever because I brought up your thing of how long you've been a member, and you actually joined us is that June 20th of June last year. So there we go. Well done there for you, Martin.
Very cool.
We'll message you unless we've got your details on file. I'm not sure, but I'll get hold of you tomorrow probably, and we'll get this off to you. So congratulations, you've just won, courtesy of the guys at Graphic Air, a iWater HPC Plus airbrush. Fantastic airbrush, really, really nice. As I say, I know it's not my choice of airbrushes and all the rest of it, but as I said in the review, I would actually spray with this rather than the other one, just with living with it because of the nozzles and everything else. But it's still a beautiful airbrush, so congratulations to you. I don't know how much it's worth. I think it's worth about 165 quid, 170 quid, so it's not a cheap one. It is a very nice one.
Martin's probably running round his house now, cheering.
Yeah.
He's gone up to his missus saying, "I won 165 quid airbrush," and she's going, "And you don't understand, you know, poor fella." So he's all excited. She's like, "Well, you know, that's an airbrush. You know, you've got a coat, but you need an airbrush for." No, it's, you know.
Definitely. So anyway, next month we're going to be giving away a kit for the members, a very nice kit which I'm going to organise. I've got to review it first, so I'm going to keep that under wraps, but that's going to be our big one for next month for members. But for non-members and on the social media and everything else, we're going to be reviewing and we'll give this away. So we're going to do a double live giveaway on next month's show. So that will be for the Iwata Revolution airbrush as well, which is a very nice one as well, which is the CR version of that one. So we'll be reviewing that one and giving that away next month, as well as for non-members and members alike. Everyone can enter to that one, and then we'll do a purely members only giveaway, which will be sanders, a few other bits and pieces. Hopefully they'll be here in time, and a fantastic kit as well, which I've got down there, which I won't mention because I've got to review it yet, and we're going to do that one as well. So that'd be very, very good. Congratulations, Martin.
The kit you can wear better not be a rifle model.
It's a Tiger 1 by rifle. I don't know, I've had it kicking around here for the last couple of weeks. I don't know where it came from, so yeah. No, it's not. It's another one that I've got down there. But as I say, I've been sitting on it a while and I've got to do the review for it. So I think it'll make a fantastic prize. So we'll do that with you guys. So hopefully these gentlemen will be with you during the week as well, because they're going to be doing little bits of videoing for you and catch up. So what we're going to do is some of their stuff will be standalone as well. We'll get them set up with various little areas and various things as well. So we'll get that sorted this week and everything else. And then I'll be getting on with the A10, pushing heavily along with that one. Got any plans for this week, guys?
Some more work on my Panzer and back to the SU-25 doing some painting. I actually ordered some paint. A couple of colors were out of stock, unfortunately, so hopefully they'll get them in fairly soon. So that's why I'm a little bit stalling on that, but hopefully back on track next week. Other than that, back to normal work, actually.
Yeah, they're proper jobs. Yeah,
the real job that pays, right?
Yeah, that's it. The one that pays the bills. Okay, Steve, what are you up to this week? Do you have any more to the mow?
Yeah, I might do a bit on the mow. I'm planning on getting all the paintwork done on the A10. Like I said, there is the beginning of it's all in the team area, ready to go up.
Yeah,
that's still being done.
I'll get that sorted for you this week.
While that's drying, I'll probably make a start on the petrol tanker. Wednesday, photography day, so I'll be
graphic.
Yeah.
Is so cool. Will you be sharing those photos with us all?
Yes, if you'd like me to.
If you want an idea of Steve's photography, you've just got to look to the left of him there, and or his right, and that gives you an idea of the type of photography he does. So
you'll probably have to get your adult rating changed on Flory Models, Phil.
That's it. Yeah, we'll have to have that upgraded to 18 plus.
I might put some up if Phil allows and vets them first.
Yeah, well, let me vet them first before we get a strike. We'll never be allowed on Google again. But
we'll put them on the forum. There'll be some that are suitable for the forum.
Oh, that's all right then. One or two out of the thousands he'll take. But anyway, never mind. All good.
Phil, do you want to go through some YouTube channel questions? We're done with the forum.
Yeah, okay. Have you got them in front of you? Because I've lost it all now.
No, I don't. I don't. I'm sorry.
Right, okay, so we just do a couple then before we go. So, this is the YouTube channel. Sprue Surgeon said, stop if you cut off your finger. He said, a mere flesh wound. Right. Okay. Ken was saying, great to see Steve and Han. Great to see Steve working on his A10. looking like he's enjoying the track weathering demo by Hans as well. How do you think your burnishing compares to the UMP one? If it's the black look, we were discussing this the other day, weren't we? We reckon they're all just burnishing fluids are all the same. It's basically a blackening fluid. It's a universal stuff. You can buy in bulk from anywhere. I think everyone just rebottles it. So
seems like it. You know, I just by pure chance just put this in my order because I had to order some other things. This one's from MIG Ammo. I used to have track burnishing fluid that came from the train store. So
living in America, why don't you just try popping to your local gun shop and see if you've got some barrel blackening, bluing stuff or whatever it is, and just get like that and just try it. And then if it is the same, those of you in America that have got a perfect cheap source of blackening agent,
blackening fluid, it's just a universal thing, isn't it? I think it's just everyone just rebottles it. It's like water.
Well, it's all blue as well.
Yeah,
a single one of it is blue or kind of a bluey green, so it's all the same stuff.
Yeah,
you
can see it's all settled on the bottom right now. I think somebody asked on the forum, or several folks on the forum asked, you know, I actually did dip another piece of track in there yesterday. Takes a little bit longer time to react, but I think if you get rid of all that sediment right here, you can't reuse it. It does seem to evaporate, so I lost about, I don't know, about that much.
Yeah.
For the one application. I bet you can get away with it 3 times. It just takes longer. It takes a little bit more time. After that, it's gone. But like Steve says, which is a very good idea, I think, is the bluing, what they use on guns, where they rub the trigger mechanism and the whole housing area. I'll have to go check that out. There's plenty of gun shops around here, so give it a shot.
Cool.
And also, Hans didn't do it on his, but before you put your tracks into the fluid, give them a scrub. If you get a little bowl and put some acetone, like nail varnish remover, or you can use malt vinegar, put your tracks in there, give them a good scrub with an old toothbrush. And what that does, it makes the burnishing fluid work better. It also prevents little silver areas where you haven't got all the oxidized coating that's built up on the tracks. It gets rid of all the grime, all the grease, everything like that. And if you're going to be using your burnishing fluid again, actually using acetone obviously makes the fluid more effective, so you'll probably get 2 or 3 uses out of it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Steve. That's something that I kind of skipped through. I was a little lazy and just kind of dunked it in there. I was in a hurry, I guess. But yeah, that's a very good point. Just doing that kind of pre-treatment. I'm looking at the track right now, and there's still just little bitty pieces here and there. I'm going to cover that up with mud anyway, but that's a very good point, is to give it that little scrub. And I bet you it will even work faster, so you don't have that fluid etching for a longer period. So definitely a good suggestion.
Don't panic, Hans. I'm just the same as you, because I always forget. I do have to chuck it in.
Yep.
Okay, so Jackie Smith says, hi, any tips for a first-time airbrusher on using Vallejo gloss varnish, the 510 and the matte varnish, the 520, the best PSI to use? Jackie, be interested to know what needle size you've got, because that makes the biggest difference. Generally though, if you're using matte finish, you can go for a higher air pressure, gives you a better matte look. If you're going glossy, you want to go less. Okay, so obviously for glosses, you want to go for that nice proper wet look right the way over the model. That way it gives the gloss time to self-level and gives you a better finish. If you're doing a matte finish, you have a higher air pressure, so you're drying it as you're putting it on, and that gives you a flatter finish at the end of the day. Pressures, again, it depends on your needle size. If you're using something like, say, 0.3 as an average in between everything, then you want to be doing your sort of, your very wet looking ones for your glosses, low 10 to 15 psi. If you're doing matte finishes like I do, I spray really high if I want a dead flat finish, and I'll be spraying 20 to maybe 30 psi and just blowing it through really heavy to give you a better finish on those. HG says price is fine. Sorry, yeah, the price is going up. I did mention it this week. Hans, KFC's making me hungry. I noticed that as well. He obviously likes his KFC and keeps his pots. Good idea.
I keep my little pots. They're handy.
That's it. Ray says, great once again. Love seeing Hans and Steve doing their videos. Thanks, Phil. No problem.
Thanks.
Raptor Vol says, what are your thoughts on masking the inside of aircraft canopies? Masking is my biggest struggle doing the build process. I'm thinking of a poorly done canopy can ruin a fantastic model finish. I love seeing your models and have open canopies with fully painted, hold on, I've got to read more, interior framework. Since models do not have framework on the inside of the clear parts, what method for you sharp mark cleans? We spoke about this one before. You're saying about World War II and that. If it's just one, like we're saying, like an A10, if it's just an open type canopy that you can't really see into that clearly, technically I don't bother. I just pre-spray the outside. The first coat of paint onto it will be the internal color, so it looks like it from the inside. Now, if you're doing something like a modern jet, which has got a side opening canopy, like a British Hawk or a MiG or something else like that, then I will mask the inside, and it is just that laborious job of doing it twice. Okay, on a sliding canopy, again, I think you can probably get away with not worrying about it because it's going to be tucked behind multiple layers. It just depends on how exposed it is. If it's one of those things you can see it really clearly, like on a 32nd scale something, then you might want to think about doing it. But again, it is just that boring thing of doing it, masking it. The only thing I would recommend, if you're doing something with lots of framing on the inside, is just doing it line by line. So you just put 2 strips of masking tape down, spray at that line, take them off, do the next one, and then crossways. Instead of trying to make a hatch grid all the way over it and spray it in one, it's quicker and you'll end up with straighter lines. If you put like squares for each panel line, if they're slightly out of alignment, they can look a bit funny, especially if you've got 2 obviously top inside and out. If one's slightly off, you can see it both ways. So I would always just do the 1 strip and work your way right the way around those. So excited to see you guys on Instagram. We will be, hopefully this week. Can you reuse burnishing fluid? We spoke about this. We reckon you can, isn't it?
Yeah. Pardon me.
Then Brett says he's found that you can use it once the burnishing fluid loses its sort of performance and its power, probably because it's going to dilute and pick up all the nasties into it as well. Hans, great review. Phil was wondering what your opinion is on ultrasonic cleaners. We covered that before, so we don't need to go over that one again. Jason, largely with you on your rants. I don't think we need to go over the rants again because we've covered that quite a lot, to be honest. Snow Girl, is it worth to buy an Iwata custom micron CVM with a 0.18 needle, or just buy the Infinity CR Plus with a 0.15? Depends what you're doing with it. Hans, you shoot with a 0.15, don't you? On yours. Oh, we've lost your sound. Are you there?
Sorry about that. I had it on mute. Yeah, all I use is 0.15 needles most of the time, even at 32nd scale. I might go up to a 0.2. Works just fine. Shooting lower pressures, less paint usage, thinner paints, but it's just a technique. Everybody has a little different skill set and what works for you. You know, I'm not saying that one airbrush works better than another. You know, it's up to you. Really. Again,
the thing is, Snow Girl, what we were saying in the review as well, if you look at any reviews I do on an airbrush, I will say it's personal preference. It's what works best with you. To be honest, I always used to use 0.15 needles in my Infinities in this one. I now switch to a 0.2. I find you get less spitting, clogging, all those things through acrylics. Now I've moved on to a bit more lacquers using MRPs. You could probably go back to a 0.15 and have no problem with it. But the thing is, when you're down to that type of size, it depends what type of work you're doing. If you're doing modelling, and using thicker paints, you're probably going to need a little bit of a bigger needle. But if you're more of an artist, say, and you're doing sort of custom paint work and stuff like that, and you want to get in and put hairs into things and that type of stuff, and you're using a very thin paint, more like your lacquers, your inks, things like that, then a 0.15 is definitely where you want to be, because you just want to be into that fineness right the way through. Just depends on your level of detail that you're actually working with. And Hans has got a cat. Which one's that?
That's one of our pure Siamese. His name is Buddy. He loves to be on my desk, and as you can see, immediately.
Is that the rattlesnake hunter?
Yeah, this is the rattlesnake guy. He's all back together. He's got his fur back on his mouth or his muzzle, and everything's back. Turn around. Come on.
For you guys who don't know, Hans's cat had a fight with a rattlesnake in his garage during the summer. We think the rattlesnake won.
Yeah. But,
it
was quite the costly experience at the vet. So got some anti-venom and all that good stuff. But he's very good. He's a little bit more shy right now around anything that lays on the ground that even looks like a snake now. But that's a good thing.
Any bit of cable, any hose pipe, he won't go near it now. He's terrified of it.
That's right.
Anyway, Longwit says Nigella Lawson and super glue in the same super lube in the same sentence. Thanks, Phil. I'm gonna have to have a lie down. Duty card. Would love to see you guys on Instagram. We're sorting that out obviously this week. Sean says following you guys on YouTube for years. Steve and Hans, so relaxing to watch and still get loads of info. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Quantum Plastic says, anxious to see the weathering. Okay, that'll be this week for me, hopefully, back end of the week, and everything else like that. So there we go. And that is us done this week for this show. Finished. There we go. I think that went very well. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Thank you for all your great questions. We've got 275 of you watching. That's gone down a little bit. Look, they didn't win an airbrush, and we've lost about 50 viewers. They were like, damn, I didn't win. Sod you, I'm going off to the pub. So never mind. Anyway, more chances to win, obviously next week. As I say, busy week at the moment here with everything sorted out with the new regime and that. Loads of you asking about how you can go from monthly to yearly subscriptions. We're going to be sorting out this week. It might not flick over for a couple of weeks, but obviously we'll be in contact with you all and explaining how you can do it, and you can do the new price thing. Yes, the prices are going up, guys, but don't panic buy. Everyone seems to be panic buying. You've stripped us out of stock of everything at the moment. We are trying to make it and package it and everything. To be honest, Mel's been doing it all day today, sorting it out to get your orders out. So we are running slightly behind getting orders out by about 3 days. I thought we were going to get everything out on Friday. We didn't. We've still got about 30 orders didn't go out on Friday. Then we've got loads of orders that come in the weekend. We're doing our best to keep up with them. But obviously a lot of people are panic buying. Prices aren't going to change till the 1st of April. So don't panic. You've got loads of time to order before then, before the prices are going to go up just a little bit. But they're only going up 15-20% on various items of the Flory Models range. So don't panic too much about it. You know, Christ, if at this rate we have no stock, no nothing. So yeah, we'll get there. But it's all on order, it's all going out, and we'll get around to it as fast as we possibly can. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back hopefully, I don't know when it'll be, how it's going to fall next month. Hold on, I might be able to get it up. Can I do it on here? Yeah. So next month we will be on with you on where are we? January, March, the 26th. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah. 26th. So we'll be with Sunday the 26th with you as we do that. But we'll hopefully, when things relax and settle down a little bit here, we get back to doing more of the live stuff, the one-day builds and all those things that you guys love as well. So hopefully we'll be doing that as well. So thank you very much to Steve for joining us today. Thank you, Steve.
Pleasure.
Stop knocking things off and you'll be fine.
But they make for more entertainment. People will appreciate it, you know.
Definitely, yes. Everyone cringed when you did it. I had about 20 messages saying, oh my God, is it all right? I said, he's fine. He took it really well.
In the opening part of the base coat video that's ready to go up, right at the very beginning, I went to get my airbrush and I'd somehow knocked it and it was covered in paint. But I was left it in there for you.
And I thought I was a klutz. Thank you very much for joining us, Hans. Great job this week with all your little videos and everything else like that. We look forward to more of them. We love them.
Thanks,
they're absolutely
guys.
fantastic.
Appreciate
so there
it.
we go. No problem
Thank you.
at all. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us tonight, joining us live and everything else. Thank you for all your great questions. Thank you to the YouTube guys as well for joining us. Thank you for being so nice and kind and everything else like that. So till next month, everybody, we'll take care. We'll see you soon, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. So that's it, guys. Wave. Bye.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Take care.